in moving the chairs and getting the tables. So you guys are awesome. I want to thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll start as always with roll call. Okay. President Ramses is here. VP Academic External Jacqueline Skippins is here. VP Finance Operations Roman is here. Anyone know where Danny is?
Oh, he's downstairs. He's coming.
I saw VP Internal Jen Kozlowski. She was here. She's still got her stuff here, right? Yeah, she's coming. Member at Large, Izan Materia. Anyone know where Izan is? He was at the meeting, at the general meeting.
Maybe he's just grabbing food. He'll be back.
Okay. Is his stuff still here?
I saw him down in room 314.
Oh, sign meeting.
Member at Large Aaron Beal is here. Member at Large Pascal Lamy is here. Proxy for Member at Large Sam Dixon is Harrison Crandall. And Harrison, I just lost sight of him. There he is. Welcome to council. I have your proxy form and statement of office, and we're looking forward to your contributions. Senator Ali Caledine is here. Yep. Quinn is here. Yep. Sorry, I just have a bit of trouble with what was wrong. Senator Dylan Latondra is here, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah, there you are. Senator Andrew is right there. Blog Rep John Hunt is here. Blog Rep Rebecca Hayward will be late. Women's Community Rep Alex Kills is here. Yep. Black Students Rep Michael Davies Cole will not be joining us. Dallas Rep Ben Hammer is here. Aboriginal student is.
Her son's school got canceled this afternoon.
It did. Okay. Thank you. International Students Rep Amar Al-Khashab is here. And Fouad Tushar is here. International Students Rep. Residence Rep Scott Reardon is here. Didn't I see Scott?
Hi.
There. Yeah, there you are. Sorry, man. Residence Rep Tiana Dubrovsky. Anyone know where Tiana is? No one knows where Tiana is? Sexton Campus Director Jomel Vargas is here. Proxy for DAS President Caitlin Lowe is Julian McGuire. I have your proxy form. Welcome back. And then the other DAS Rep Christine Rankin is here. DSS Rep Amelia McKenzie is here. There she is. There you are. And Brogan is here too. DSS. DU's President Brandon Price under regrets, as did Engineering Rep Cindy Miller. Architecture Rep Dan Smith is here. Computer Science Rep Chris Pervin is here. Commerce Rep Mackenzie Arnold will be late. Management Rep Mackenzie Arnold will be late. Commerce Rep Hema Murden is here. Health Professions Rep Jasmine Prue is here. Proxying for the Law Rep Lee Staples is Bart Soroka. I have your proxy form. Welcome back. For dentistry, we have Tom is here. Thank you. Emily Whalen, the medicine rep, will not be present. Nesni Sultana, DAG's rep, is here. And Vishwa Patel, DAG's rep, is here. Okay. Let's get started. Is there any business arising out of the agenda? Yes, Dylan.
So we have a motion on the table for policy amendment regarding Big Montary, and the DSU. Considering that Michael and Sarah aren't here, as well as Lee, and those are 3 of the 5 people who are working on it, I want to make sure that they're here for that part of the motion. And I was wondering if we could turn that into perhaps a discussion item as opposed to a motion.
So the way that would work is we can have the discussion if it comes up in the agenda, and at the point where you want to have a vote, then you can simply table it. That's how that would work. Yeah. Again, that for our testimony.
Point of privilege.
Yes, Jamal.
Do you mind zooming in?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any other business arising out of the agenda? I see you, Brams. Yeah.
Please refresh my memory. Wasn't the vote at council last time to have the motion on March 5th, the first council meeting in March?
For what?
The independent governance review consultant.
What the question is? When was that tabled for?
Yes. So I think it was tabled to the 5th.
And that arose at the last meeting?
Yep. Because we couldn't Do councilors remember that?
No, well, we have the minutes,
Yeah.
so let me just pull up the minutes.
First council meeting in March. So it shouldn't be on the agenda.
So, okay. Sorry, until next meeting. Yeah. Is Kaylee here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
I mean, does that accord with your memory?
I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I don't know what was discussed. But if it requires an amendment of the meeting minutes, that doesn't. I based my edits on these minutes just based on what was written there already.
Okay.
So, I mean, we do have something to go present to you today, but the reason I'm asking till March 5th, because that was the March 11th meeting, sorry, is because we get more time to critique and refine the document. So it hasn't gone through the executive yet.
And I think that the same principle with the Vermont territory motion would apply. Is that if it comes up for a vote, it comes up in the agenda, if it comes up for a vote, then so table it until next meeting.
Andrew, there was something in the notes and the video when I was reviewing just that said that there was some discussion about the March meeting. So that might be what.
I believe that the question was at what time would we have someone's report?
March 11th.
And that was March 11th. But in terms of debate on the motion, I think, I'm inclined to say that the minutes are correct, that it was tabled until this meeting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other on the agenda? Do we have a mover for the agenda? Does the agenda, Jasmine, seconded by Jacqueline. The question is on the agenda. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions on the minutes? No. Okay. So the minutes from the meeting of January 28th. Are there any corrections to the minutes of January 28th? Yes, Dan?
Every name in 28 of Daniel Joe, what's his last name?
Jolivet.
Should be Daniel Smith, and then February should be Daniel.
So I got it wrong. Okay.
It's
I switched it. All right.
Yeah.
We'll make that correction. Sorry, man.
But everything's right. It's just the name,
Yeah. Okay.
and it's Daniel, not Dan. Just
Daniel Smith.
yes.
Okay, Daniel. Are there any other corrections to the minutes of January 28th? Do we have a mover and a seconder? For those minutes, Jamel, seconded by Basma. Is anyone opposed to adopting the minutes and placing them on the website? Then they'll be adopted and placed on the website. Is there any business arising out of the minutes of February 11th, other than that same thing? No business arising out of the minutes of February 11th. We need a mover and a seconder for those minutes. Jamel, seconded by Vishwa. Is anyone opposed to adopting the minutes of February 11th and placing them on the website? Then they'll be adopted and placed on the website. Okay. Communications received. So, apropos to what Dylan was talking about for the Mi'kmaq territory motion, I received text of that, unfortunately, after the deadline. And so the question is whether we circulate the text of the motion at this point. So I am in receipt of the motion to acknowledge the Mi'kmaq territory. And so the question is whether it will be circulated to councillors. So is there any discussion around that? Yes, Dylan?
I would like it to be circulated to councillors because I want them to have as much time to discuss it and perhaps like even work on the wording. I want everybody to be okay with whatever we agree on. Circulating it now ensures that it will be circulated next meeting when I would like to vote on it. As I stated before, my ideal is that we have it as a discussion point, not a motion today.
Any further discussion on that? I mean, is anyone opposed to, yes, William?
When will we expect this to be communicated to students at large, the text of this potential motion?
So if I send it to councillors now, then I wish Jen were here to answer. Hi, Jen.
If you send it to me, I can put it on the website right now.
Okay. I'll add you to the email. That's how we'll do it. So, yes, Dylan.
I would also like to add that this is a working document, and that anything that is published is flagged clearly as a working document if the Gazette were to use it.
Is it a Word file?
I'll send you the Word.
I'll put draft on it.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Is anyone opposed to circulating the text of the motion to acknowledge Mi'kmaq territory? Okay, then I will hit send on this email. Okay, more communications received. We didn't have a pre-council meeting to discuss this because of the general, but I've been following the emails between yourself and Carolyn Waters concerning her availability to consult students for the Budget Advisory Committee. And so it's my understanding that she has offered 2 times for her availability, and they're both on March 17th from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7. And again, this is for her to come down and consult students on the report of the Budget Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
So maybe you could explain a little bit about this.
So yes, remember the back presentation that time ago? So they were originally supposed to do it at our GM, which was supposed to be like next week, but of course our GM got delayed. So the Budget Advisory Committee will release a report sometime in April. So they're releasing a draft next week, and that draft will be finalized in April, mid-April or something like that. So Carolyn was requesting she's not available March 25th, nor is she available I think March 11th. So she's requesting a special March meeting, so just for councillors, the back will show up and they'll do a presentation. So that's one option. So you folks have to decide. Breaking news, this morning breaking news, they said it was actually okay for us to have a presentation on March 31st, that's when our AGM is scheduled. So, and they can still take the feedback that we have and amend, make reflection of the recommendations for that.
In our meeting with them today, the thing that came up was the option of potentially having like a town hall or some other sort of meeting that was less formal than a council meeting, where Carolyn could show up and give the BAC presentation if the March 17th meeting, it is St. Patrick's Day, everyone, or if you consider the 31st of March to be a little bit too late, as they're going to release the report in its final form within probably the first week and a half, 2 weeks of April.
So you have to decide essentially what direction you want us to take. I'm totally in support of Jacqueline's town hall idea. I think it's a good way to move forward, as opposed to having a private session with the executives and any councillors who want to show up. That I don't feel comfortable with that, but that is also another option.
I see Taylor.
Do you want comments from Ms. Namer?
Mm-hmm.
I would say March 31st sounds good. To me, I appreciate the timeline piece, that doesn't give them a lot of time to take recommendations, but as has been discussed on Senate and in other conversations, probably they haven't actually made any edits to the back report in recent memory. Ever. Maybe for the correction. Based on student feedback. But that being said, I think it's really important that we have this conversation with Dr. Waters and understand what is in the report and how it works. So I think it's an important presentation, but I think personally that the timeline, March 31st, sounds okay.
Any further discussion? So, yes.
So we'll move forward with those 2 options, the town hall and the GM. We'll work out the logistics with each. Regardless of which option, the town hall is going to be the end of March anyway, so that gives everybody like at least 3 weeks to read over the draft that's released next week. And yeah, I guess we'll know more about, we still have to schedule the town hall and stuff, so we'll see how that works out.
So I'm sorry to what we just decided here, but
The executives, I guess, at the next council meeting will present a final decision on whether it's going to be at a GM or town hall. Okay, depending on logistical issues we might encounter for scheduling.
so the GM is on the 31st, and the town hall could be.
Last week of March, yeah, or 3rd week of March.
Okay. So was there any further discussion around this then? Okay. Well, thanks for that. Jen?
I'm really sorry that I missed the passing of the agenda. I got stuck in something. But I was hoping to ask for your unanimous consent in adding a motion to the agenda. It's just be it resolved that the deadline for the SRC report for the levied society motion gets extended until April 22nd, which is the last council meeting in April.
Okay, Jen. And so when did you want that in the agenda?
If we can add it in new business, the last item in new business.
So it would be after 9A?
Yes.
Okay, does the motion have a seconder? Julian. So please continue.
Yeah, so I'm just asking for your unanimous consent to add that to the agenda, and then I guess we can debate it when it comes up then, after 9A.
Okay, so the question is whether to add it to the agenda. Is there any discussion as to whether it should be added to the agenda? Yes, sorry, I'm not sure of your name.
That's all right. My name's Asher.
Asher.
I just have a question. What's the acronym that you were saying? What is that?
Oh, sorry, the Society Review Committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Asher.
That's okay.
Yes, Dan.
Extended?
I don't know if that fits into this.
So
Can I answer that? Or like,
I mean, the question is whether it should be added to the agenda, and so,
Like, what's the purpose of it being extended? Why does it need to be added? What was the problem with the original date?
That's
That's
discussion.
for
That's
discussion.
Okay,
When we
fine.
get to it on the agenda, yeah.
Don't worry
Point of
about it.
information.
yes, Jamel?
So, be the discussion of adding this item to the agenda.
I mean,
Daniel's question is not a part of this discussion.
I'm not sure if I'm inclined I'm not sure if I'm inclined to,
It's unanimous consent, so
yeah, I'm not sure if I'm inclined to have the answer to that question. I'm not sure if I'm inclined to have that question go unanswered.
okay.
I think that it is relevant to whether we add it to the agenda.
Add to the agenda and find out why.
But I'm gonna not, because I have other things to do. Unless there's a good reason, I'm not gonna add it to the agenda.
I can answer.
Sure.
Okay. So the SRC hasn't been able to meet outside of talking about ratifications, and so because the vote on the motion was so delayed, and then we didn't actually get a chance to discuss it in the meeting because it switched. Does anyone else remember this? It switched into an automatic vote, and so we didn't actually get to discuss the timeline because we talked about an amendment, and then it switched into voting on the whole motion without us being able to talk about the timeline. And I wanted to raise the point there that we wouldn't have enough time because we'd already lost months because it was tabled so much, and we haven't been able to meet as predicted in order to finish it by March 11th, which is the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion around the merits of adding this to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote as to whether to add to the agenda a motion to extend the time for the SRC to respond to, for lack of a better term, to Jomel's motion. So,
No.
okay, so the motion is to add to the agenda after 9A in new business, a motion to extend the time for the SRC to report to council on the report that council asked it to give concerning the substance of your motion, right? I don't know if I've done a very good job explaining that.
Yeah, I think so.
So do you understand the question? Or not really? Do you understand the question?
Yeah.
Okay. All those, yes, Jamel?
Sorry. So, when does amendments to the motion happen? In the discussion?
It's the last time on the agenda, so after 9A. 9A is the business about,
So when that discussion comes up, I can then again amend the motion?
certainly.
Okay.
Yeah. And what was, did you type what the bird clause was? Be it resolved that, yeah,
Be it resolved that that council extend the deadline for the SRC to report on the referendum mandated levied society motion to April 22nd, 2015. Off the top of my head, not bad.
to the referendum,
Just making clauses.
referendum levy societies, to April, what was it, April?
22nd.
Okay. Okay, so is there any lack of clarity around the question? Seeing none, we'll move to vote to add it to the agenda. All those in favor?
That's
Oh.
unanimous.
Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Now we're at appointments. And so, If we remember from last meeting, we struck this Student Services Review Working Group. And our to appoint 5 members to the working group who have to be collectively representative of each campus. And maybe I would ask Danny to explain a bit about the
process, or what's happening right now?
yeah.
Okay, cool. So last council meeting decided that we would strike a working group as Dana just suggested. So far, of the 5 folks, 2 folks came forward interested in this and participating in this group. Caitlin Lowe and Alex Killam. So it wasn't meant to be those folks. Are those folks here? No, Alex is. Caitlin is not here, but hopefully she's still interested in being on this committee, or sorry, this working group. I've talked a lot about this, and there's lots of information in various council packages from past. I don't know if anything was I can't remember if it was circulated this week or not. Probably not. But if you're interested in being part of the Student Services Review Working Group, I guess just let me know. It's sort of like up to me to task folks with that, or find folks to be on that committee. Yeah, it'd be great to have someone from Sexton. Allie?
Oh, sorry, if you're undone, you can
Oh,
go on.
okay. It'd be great to have someone from like each campus, potentially like Studley. We probably have Studley representation currently, but Sexton and Carleton for sure would be awesome, as well as well, I know Michael, Black Students Rep, expressed interest a couple weeks back. I don't know, is he here?
No.
No. Okay, I'll reach out to him on see if he's interested. But yeah, if anyone's interested, feel free. Otherwise, we can talk after the meeting or something like that, or I can send another email around to council after this meeting and get folks that way. Otherwise, I'll probably just come to folks personally that I think would be really great for the committee, if that's comfortable or cool with the board. I had a question.
Can you tell us just a little bit about what the time commitment and timeline is like? Sorry, I wasn't here for the last meeting.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Time commitment, probably not too much. I would say like an hour meeting once every 2 weeks, probably. The this review committee, the official group, is actually meeting this week, so I think tomorrow actually. So I'll have a better understanding of the time commitment. But I'd like to call after the meeting to get this group together probably next week to start looking at what we can recommend to that committee for student services reviews on behalf of students. So yeah.
I'd love to be on it. That
Something you're
sounds
interested in?
really cool.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, it's more Studley kids.
That's
but-
all right. No, that's all right. Cool. So I don't know. There's not a lot of people showing the bid here, but I'll send an email around maybe, and I'll start reaching out to folks that I think are interested.
Is there a maximum number of students?
5 right now. So
You probably don't want any more Studley students though.
I don't not want them, but it's just I don't know. Wouldn't mind diversifying a little bit, but.
What qualifies someone to a certain campus?
Well, I mean, it's more like I don't know, like what's the position on council?
Yes, yeah. Ballot rep.
Dell Rep. Yeah, I mean, like that's a representative of a particular group. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to put your name forward. I can certainly put you on the committee. Also, like if you're interested in being involved, like I would be happy to just come to the meeting and then we can kind of flesh out a committee plan more so.
Okay.
Put my name down.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it was always my understanding from last week that these would go through council, and I think that I laid out the options clearly.
Okay.
So, I mean, I want to open nominations for position on this committee at this time, and I know that a few people have expressed interest, so I want them to be able to put forward their nominations. So, are there any nominations for this committee? Yes, Jen.
I'd like to nominate Jomel.
So, do you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I just don't remember what the committee was. Sorry.
It's a review of student services, which I think the Section Advisory Committee has been talking about a lot this year.
Jamal, you'd be
Sorry,
great.
can I speak to it?
Yes, of course.
I'm just unsure, so can a counselor be on more than 2 committees?
Yeah.
I accept.
Are there any further nominations for positions on this committee? Yes, Taylor.
I nominate Ali Kelly.
I'll nominate myself. Can I do that?
Yeah. I got it down.
The motion last time saying you appoint
No, that's not what the motion said. So we have Scott and we have Ally and we have Jamel. Are there any further nominations? Yes, Roman?
I'll nominate Ben.
Sure.
Any further? So Scott, the four that have just been nominated, right? Jomel's from Sexton, so we need one from,
I represent students of all campuses.
but what are you at though? Where are you
I
at?
went to this campus.
Okay.
I have another.
Jen?
I'd like to, sorry to put you on the spot, I know you just got back in, but I'd like to nominate Jasmine. Sorry to put you on the spot. It's for the Student Services Committee.
You're not obliged to accept the nomination, but you've been nominated to sit on this committee.
Can I know what I'm being
Yes.
asked to do this?
Yes, of course you can.
Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you as soon as you were walking in. Do you wanna?
Yeah, so group is
And
going.
sorry, in depth, I am expecting a call that I must take, so if I walk out, I do apologize.
Okay. So this group is going to be tasked with me as chair of this working group to provide recommendations to student services review in helping them find out what issues, what things are happening within the student services departments that need alterations in the coming.
In the sense of health services,
Yeah, there's a whole list of them.
advising,
It's
et
been
cetera, et cetera,
circulated to
et
council a number of
cetera.
times, but there's a whole list, health services being one of them for sure.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So you've been nominated, so do you accept the nomination? You're not obliged to accept the nomination. If you have other time commitments or whatever.
May I answer at the next meeting? Sorry, being cold, sorry.
I'm gonna say that's a no, so is there anyone else who wants to be?
I apologize.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be nominated for the committee? Didn't I hear that Alex, that you were interested?
If there's a spot, then I would love to take it. If there's not, then I won't.
We have four.
currently.
We have four so far.
Great. If no one else wants to, then I can
Not
absolutely.
Alex, kill him.
I accept.
Okay. So, I mean, you're on Studley. You're on Studley campus?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jomel's at Sexton, and Ben and Ally and Scott are all on.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
I'm in planning and sustainability, so I'm kind of divided between the two campuses. Does that qualify me to be a representative of the Sexton campus?
I'd say so.
Okay.
Great.
Are there any further nominations for positions on the Student Services Review Working Group? Is your hand up, Jamel?
I would like to nominate Thema.
Do you accept the nomination?
Isn't there 5 already? What do you mean, like saying yes, have us do a vote and all that? I think so. No, let's just say no. We already have 5.
Yeah.
We still, the point that I'm trying to drive home is we still need one from whatever the health campus is. Huh? Carlton, thank you. So are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations for positions on the Student Services Review Working Group? Are there any further nominations?
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
Is there anyone representing from the Carleton campus here tonight?
Emily's not here. Tom is here. Jasmine constructively said no. Is that it? I guess so. This is the motion that was passed at the last council meeting, so
Cool.
force it. And so,
So you're okay with that? I'd be inclined to invite a Carleton campus representative to a meeting as a non-voting member. Like just to get insight, or we can reach out to them for insight, but I think that's a fine committee this far.
so the question is whether or not council is okay with like violating the text of the motion and appointing these 5 people to the committee. Okay? I really don't like the fact that we're spending all this time on this, but it's what council told me last council meeting, that they wanted 5 members collectively representative of each campus. So I'm in your hands as to how to proceed here.
Well, if there's no way from Carleton, is interested in being involved in the committee. And is there anyone here that would like to be nominated? So can we figure this out next time? All right. Dan?
I would say that whatever we vote on the card is like however many positions there are. There's 3 positions at the top, 1 for Sexton, 1 for Carlton, 1 for Studley, and then 2 more other positions. So if you're voting, then just leave the Carlton one out, and then they'll have to be added at another meeting. I don't know when the next meeting is, but that's how I think that it's. I don't know. Does that make any kind of sense? So it's just a null vote. You can't vote for that position.
I think, yeah, so there will be 3 positions for Studley. One for, no, this is difficult now. This is difficult now. Bart.
Question, if we do a motion to divide and appoint just 4 seats today and then hold one open?
There you go.
Thank you. I'd move to divide so that each individual spot is nominated separately.
Seconded by Jamel. Okay, any further discussion around this? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote to divide the appointment into 5, right? Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carried. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions known in the minutes? No. Okay, so let's go one by one then. Let's do Studley first. Yes, Dan.
Can we not just put 1, 2, like Studley, Carlton, and Sexton on the ballot all at once? Does that make sense? No? Is that not still divided? It's just one ballot. Never mind, let's just do them all.
I'm just at a loss as to how to proceed here, to be quite honest.
Can we each get 3 ballots? 1 for Sexton, 1 for Carlton, 1 for... Or we're holding this up.
Allie.
Can I just withdraw, I mean, I didn't nominate myself, but can I like withdraw my acceptance of the nomination so that we can just not vote?
I will withdraw my nomination of Allie Caledine.
I want to explain what's happening here. What's happening here is that because the mover of this motion to strike the working group was extremely disorganized in explaining to me what he wanted from the committee, we're wasting so much time now trying to figure out how to proceed here, and it's an insult to everyone here because we time on the referendum questions. All that needed to be done.
Point of order.
This is a bit of an insult.
Yeah.
It's an insult to everyone.
I think we can move
on to the process now.
So the problem with that is that the nominations were closed, okay? And so now I have to pretend like I don't enforce procedure here, where I recognize that Allie didn't, that Allie actually withdrew his nomination.
It's just a vote. If we just put names on ballots and put them in and get them counted, it'll just...
As long as it stands that the only thing I care about here is ensuring proper procedure.
We have to do it anyway.
Okay? Then you understand why proper procedure means that things go smoothly. Okay? So let's say that Allie withdrew her nomination. Okay? Let's say that happened. And so now we have 4 positions. Temperature check. I would like the 4 remaining nominees to give a speech, yay or nay. In my opinion, the nays happen. And so Scott, Jomel, Ben, and Alex are the newest members of the Student Services Review Group. We'll table the appointment of the Carlton rep until the next meeting.
Congratulations, everybody. You are now on the working group for the Student Services Review Committee. That was such a fun process.
I want to invite Holly and Allie, who are members of the board, who have been very patiently waiting to give a presentation. it's my understanding that you have a presentation that you want to put up on the PowerPoint.
I believe it's an email.
Okay, so, yeah, so is anyone opposed to having the presentation put up on the board here?
I think we should all crack this for
Sorry? Did you want to be able to control it from here?
Oh.
Or did you want me to?
Do you feel comfortable doing it? That would be great.
So you're invited to give a presentation.
Anytime I see them, I'm like, oh, what's that? Even though I know what it is.
Yeah,
still, I
what's that?
Yeah.
It might be less for
5
It also, we're gonna talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a day of action.
So I'd like to be able to hear the presenters. I'd like to be able to hear the presenters, Ally and Holly, make their presentation.
Yell in order.
I don't want to yell at you. So.
Alright. Hi everybody, my name is Ally Caladine.
I'm Holly.
This is Holly. Yeah.
We're both board members for the Nova Scotia Public Interest Research Group.
We're here to give you a presentation today about everything that the organization does. I also thought I'd just open by saying that I think that this is the only presentation where someone's a council member and giving a presentation on the thing. And if anyone has any conflict of interest, I've been thinking about it very actively. So feel free to ask at the end of the presentation if you have questions about that or anything else. We don't have a computer working quite yet, but I think we're close. Maybe this will help.
Alright, so if you haven't heard of NSCRIC before, we are a group that links campus and community to do social justice work. So we link education and research on the campus and like with students here on the campus with action. And we do this all with an anti-oppression framework. So basically this means that we're thinking about anti-sexism, anti-racism when we're making our decisions, and when we're doing like any sort of social and environmental justice work. Yeah. Basically, we're a part of a broader network of campus-based PIRGs. So we're not the only one. There's OPIRGs in Ontario, and we all have similar mandates. We have an office space that's awesome. It's on the 3rd floor of the sub. It's just down that hallway right there. You can see us, I don't know, there's always folks around. Jordan, our awesome staff member. There's tea and coffee. There's a resource that you can go check out. A gender-neutral washroom, guest study meeting space. Those are just some of the resources that we have there. We have a volunteer board, and like I said, like me and Ally are a part of it. There's also 5 on it right now, and it's comprised of Dalhousie students, King students because we're a Levy King society, and community members. Board nominations for our next board election actually open tomorrow, which is really exciting, and we'll be electing them at our AGM. That's on March 26th.
Yeah. And just some insight into how our board works. It's really cool because we have part-time and full-time staff, but how our board is set up is that the board is elected by the general student body. Anyone who pays our levies can vote in the elections, and the board meets bi-weekly at least, although we tend to get about 20 emails a day, steering the direction of the organization, making important decisions, and leading those staff in terms of what they do. So it's a really cool partnership between volunteer positions and paid positions. I guess it's pretty similar to how a lot of Levy society works. Next slide. Cool. So the reason we're here today is because we are a levied society. We were originally levied in 1990 after we had a referendum which gave us $2 per full-time student, and that increased again in 2013 so that we now have a $3 levy per full-time student. We've been doing a lot of different things with this increased levy. Part of it was just because of inflation. We without having a levy increase, so obviously it's important to account for that inflation, economic student. As well as you can see on this list that has a lot of words on it. We've been using it for things like hiring more staff, increasing our capacity to do work, as well as opening a Fit Between the Lines program up a little bit more, establishing more working groups, and supporting more different whether it's working groups who are doing specific work over a long period of time or funding rounds for specific events. So just more funding going out to the community in general, and as well as increasing our internal capacity. So that's what that was all about when that happened back in 2013.
Right, so our staff, they're a core part of NSPIRG. They really work like in tandem with volunteers. One of them is Brian Krause, who's our resource and administrative coordinator. He's right back there. He does tons of work, just some of which is coordinating our resource library, just like anything that any of our working groups will need.
We will see what's happening.
Yeah.
You can ask us at the end if you want to know more about what our core staff do exactly. They do a lot, so it might be hard to talk about all of it right now.
It's true. Jordan Roberts is our outreach and administrative coordinator. So she handles all the outreach for PIRG, both talking to student groups and community groups, just like asking, like seeing like what sort of issues are in the community and on campus and how we can best react to those issues, handles our social media, etc. Also, just like can't even say how much more she does. There's such a integral part of PIRG.
Maybe known well to everyone in this room as the lady in the denim vest, and she has been referred to at least once during council.
DJ.
Not currently wearing a denim vest, but also check her out at Subfest 2015 happening on March 6th. She's gonna be DJing downstairs. It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah. We also have 2 contract staff that we just hired. Vic Beresford, our library coordinator, has been doing awesome work in our library, doing workshops, trying to kind of like open up the accessibility of, yeah, like our library and our zine wall there. I'm not good at presentations. Melanie, who is doing workshops, so like say in the past we've done workshops with Venus MB, we've done workshops on like how to coordinate a campaign, etc. So she's working on some more workshops this semester. We've also had a student community engagement coordinator, 2 Rad Frosh, talking about Rad Frosh later on, 4 paid resource positions, and a Stop Energy East Pipeline Halifax coordinator, which is one of our working groups, which is also, you can see a couple of them are grant funded as well.
Cool. So one of the coolest things that we do is having all sorts of resources that we share with everyone. My favorite one is the button maker, but as you can see on here, we also have big coffee urns, we have LCD projectors, megaphones, workshop materials, all sorts of really cool stuff. That's access. Anybody who pays our levy, which is everyone, unless they opt out, has access to these resources, and we try our best to make sure that everyone knows they're accessible. Also, we often offer them up for candidates to use during DSU elections and a number of other things. We also have ongoing partnerships with working groups, funding rounds, and NSPIRG-led workshops.
So 4 times a year, we have funding rounds, which is a way to like see what sort of projects folks out in the community on campus are doing and give them the resources to do those projects. So I think this is a fundamental part of PIRG because we're a grassroots organization and we don't like to decide everything, like all the things that are going on, and so this is our way to support like what students are already doing and like what issues are already happening on campus. It's application based, so our next one is on March 11th, and anyone can apply for funding. And we've done over 30 campus and community groups. We've supported over 30 of them. Yeah, and we've actually seen an increase of competitiveness in the funding rounds lately. And so we know that there's a great need for this funding and this support for these kind of projects. These are just some of the events that we've supported here. So there's the Halifax Cycling Trans March. Dallout hosted Julia Serrano. Shadeism, it was an event by the South House Asian Students Association. Like you can see the list here, and this is just some that are connected to DAL.
Thank you. Cool. So another thing that we do is we have working groups. Working groups are basically a lot like student societies, and the way that they are small groups that are focused on a specific issue, unlike NSPIRG, which is focused on big picture, working on lots of initiatives at once. So current working groups that we have are Divest DAO, Students Against Israeli Apartheid, Stop the Energy East Pipeline, the Halifax Media Co-op is really cool. Actually, they're all really cool. Child Rights and Intergenerational Equity Resource, and the Environmental Racism Working Group. It's a really cool structure because these are smaller groups that can do very specific specific work, and we try to give them a way that they don't have to be stressing about funding. I'm sure many of you know that working on a small society or group that is really trying to have a big impact, money can be a big concern. So we help them with their governance structures, we help them with funding, and we help them with other sort of nitty-gritty details to try to spread the knowledge of actually running campaigns and running interest societies.
Great, so we've done lots of workshops at PERG over the years and this past year. Basically, we can do them like from the skills that exist among our staff and volunteers already, and other times like, other groups have come to us proposing workshops. We might do them around anti-oppression, addressing privilege, which we know is like a really important issue on campus, especially with anti-misogyny and anti-racism this year, facilitation or consensus-based decision-making, etc. Yeah, we just want to provide these for students. Some stuff we've done this year, sexual assault first responder training with Avalon, facilitation, etc.
So obviously, it's really important when we're providing all of these services, all of these working groups, all of these ways to get involved, to be reaching out to the campus. And that's something that I think we do a pretty good job with in general, but there have been especially cool things happening this year. I expect some of the societies who've been in to talk to you, well, I'm on council, so us already, have talked about the Allied Society tabling that we did. And as per the Loaded Ladle, South House, CKDU, the ENA office, and Dallout have all been working together to be tabling on different campuses at different times to talk to as many students as possible. This includes fun button-making times. It has included giving out burritos with the ladle. It has included going down and asking people to make their own buttons about what justice issues are really important to them. It's involved a whole bunch of fun ways to try to get out there. We've also done individual tabling at Sexton in the sub, at King's, in the Tupper building, the architecture building, and the law school. This is normally more specifically at talking about the campaigns we're running, the jobs we have, and upcoming events. Obviously, we've been at the society carnivals because we just want everyone to society up with us. Beyond that, social media is a huge way we get out there. We have a newsletter that goes out all the time. We have a Facebook page that's very active. And I think that we have a lot of word of mouth outreach as well, because who wouldn't want to talk about NSPERG 24/7 all the time? Like I just don't think I ever have conversations that aren't about NSPERG.
Frosh. We do this every year. We've been doing it for the last 5 years. It's an alternative frosh for students. Basically, just like to offer a safer space, to kind of a way to like bring in anti-oppression, queer trans inclusion, sober spaces, and education around social and environmental justice to students. And this is, you can kind of see here the events that we had this year.
Yeah, can't really see.
No, you cannot see it.
That's okay.
I think there's also there was something passed around with the red frosh here.
Yeah, it was really fun. Cool. So then we have other events. This is actually just a list of the ones that we've done this year. Maybe I won't go through them, but like they were all really cool. In terms of, I'm trying to see if there's anyone in particular that are really cool to talk about. Like they're just all great. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Actually, we have great events. They're up on this right now. Sorry.
And here's some
Sorry.
Nope, that's it. No, and here's some upcoming events.
Right. These ones I actually will talk about. So we have Israeli Apartheid Week, which is happening from March 3rd to 13th. We have a Cinema Political Winter Film Fest, which is all sort of alternative movies that might be hard to come across anyways through Cinema Politica. That's happening on the 8th, 10th, and 19th. Funding round, as we said, are coming up on March 11th. Board nominations, if you guys know anyone who would be interested in running for our board for next year, the nominations open on the 26th, and the AGM will be happening on the 25th of March. Other things we have coming up are a couple workshops. We have intermediate facilitation on the 24th, non-defensive listening, which is always really cool. I feel like being on council, I could use that, and like maybe everyone else too. So if you guys want to check out that one, it's happening on the 25th. And we have a student action day camp coming up on the 14th, which is probably going to be the coolest thing you go to all year. So yeah. And that's it. So now please ask us questions, because you might have lots, or none, or somewhere in between.
It's not a question, more of a comment. NSPERG, I've sat on in NSPERG space for a lot of time, for a great amount of time. This year, it's been one of the most positive, non-judgmental, open spaces, friendliest spaces that I've been in, and I've actually all throughout your presentation I've been thinking of different spaces where if any that have been more positive than you guys, and I can't think of one right now. I've learned a lot just sitting and overhearing conversations that I've learned in some classes. I would encourage counselors to just sit there, do work there. It's awesome, just listening there to the conversations.
Taylor was first, but sure.
Slightly echo his comment. I shared an office with Ennisburg for 2 years in my role with Arts and Social Sciences Society, and there's always cool conversations that happened, and it was a great creative space. More just like a point of, or a question of information. So Ennisburg is Adal. Do all the other universities in Nova Scotia also have an Ennisburg?
No. So basically, Ennisburg was started in the 1990s by a group of students. All Ennisburg groups at different universities are self-initiated by the students at those campuses. And so ours existed. There was one at St. Mary's for a while, but there isn't anymore, I don't believe. So we're the only ones in Nova Scotia.
And we support, that's why we have community members. So often community members will be students from SMU. And right now we're actually funding a divestment project that's starting up at St. Mary's, and we've funded projects at other universities as well. So we try to keep our scope big enough that we can support student initiatives at all the different universities in Nova Scotia. Definitely have a bit more visibility on Dal and Kings just because we're levied by the students here.
So this is meant to be a joke comment, but how are you not awesome? Because almost every comment that I've ever heard about Ennisburg has been positive. So I want to just see how much like self-reflection there is going on. How do you want to do that?
Oh, I have one.
Yeah.
So something that I have been thinking about a lot this year and trying to implement is building a bit of a better volunteer structure. We always have so many people who are coming to us and saying they want to volunteer, and it's definitely one thing to send people to our specific events or send them to our specific working groups, but we're trying to really centralize a way for our volunteers to do work in the big picture realm of things. And that's something that has been a little bit hard to iron out, but as a board member, I've been really interested in working on it. And I'd actually love feedback from people who've worked with other organizations, sort of with recommendations on what is a good way to organize volunteers in a way that's big picture rather than being focused on a very specific issue or event. That's something that we could definitely work on just in terms of engagement.
Totally, I agree. I think also just like Ennisburg has so many great like small campaigns. It'd be a good way to find how to connect those groups together. Yeah, I mean this is also one of those like job interview, kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. But just like, but it's when you're working within an anti-oppression framework, it's always good to recognize that we're always trying to learn. And so we've definitely had struggles this year making decisions on like what is the most responsible way to go forward in a way that like best challenges that is the most inclusive or like appropriate, I guess. Yeah. I can talk to you about it later if you want. Yeah.
I could probably like go on forever about like all the things we could work on, as much as it's like both things we could work on and things that are great, like approach infinity in like an asymptotal way. Oh, great. Any other questions?
I for one question about like the funding round. Are those similar? Like obviously they're not given out by the DSU, but is that similar to like society grants?
So it comes just directly from our funding, and you don't have to be a society to apply for one. So it can be something that's just starting up. We definitely look for, right, like what are the structures you have in place, what do we have to show that you will succeed, but it might be a little bit more open than a grants application because you don't have to be a levied society. You can be someone with an idea, you can be an organization, you can be a levied society, you can be a ratified society. It's just a little bit more open like that. And the selection process is obviously a little bit different because it's just our board and we work with a consensus-based decision-making process instead of voting democratically on it with like yays and nays. We all try to get to a point where we all agree.
I just want to make a comment. Ennisburg is a really interesting space. It's a resource for those student and community groups that want to get involved in an issue and don't know how. So you can get the training and the connections on how to get a campaign going. You also just borrow a megaphone, borrow a button maker. Those things that aren't necessarily intuitive. And as a result of Perg's work, really cool projects bigger than in student society. So did you know that the Dell Women's Centre, now the South House, was an Annisburg working group once? The Halifax Granary Co-op that has a building on Agricola Street started as a PERG working group. The Nova Scotia Rainbow Action Project, which does province-wide lobbying as the most respected voice in LGBT rights in the province, that started as an Annisburg working group. So a lot of cool things have generated from seed funding from PERGs. It's just a wonderful, wonderful resource. Well, you know.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Holly or Alan?
So maybe we'll just wrap up by saying both come and hang out with us in our space. We would love to make you a cup of tea and talk about politics or sleep or anything like that. All of these things happen in the Annisburg office. If anyone's interested in coming into our AGM, it would be so great to see anyone and everyone from council coming out to the AGM and helping us make decisions about steering our direction for next year, voting on board members, the board, if you guys are looking for something cool to do next year, any of that. So feel free to get in touch with myself or Holly or Jordan or Brian or anyone with questions about getting involved or anything else. Yeah.
Thank you.
My hand's so hurting.
Okay. The next presentation is from Ryan Schenk for the Dell Bike Center. Thanks for coming. Do you have anything that you'd like to add or no? Okay. All good. All right, so I'll give you 15 minutes, and then there will be another 15 for Q&A.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Ryan Shank. I'm Vice President of the Dell Bike Society. We're the contributors to the Dell Bike Center that is right beside the Studley Gym. It's just a little building off to the right. So I'm just going to give you just a brief overview. To start with our vision is to promote cycling as an alternative mode of transport and as a form of recreation. Become a leading figure in the Halifax Regional Municipality cycling community. Recognize the importance and impact of bicycle traffic in and around the campus. Endorse the bicycle as a valuable, economical, and desirable mode of transportation. Support development include bicycle facilities which create linkages to the current and potential urban and recreational routes and represent the interest of bicyclists. And then our mission is kind of the same thing, but we're just really looking to provide active, stable source of transport for the Dal and the Dal community around it, and that's really what we're looking for. The Dell Bike Center was started in 2009 by Clean Nova Scotia and the University, the Office of Sustainability. Clean Nova Scotia was just a project pilot, so their funding stopped about 2 years ago, and then it was just the Office of Sustainability funding it, and now, as of last year, we got levied, so we get $1 from every student, and now that represents the other half that we contribute towards the Dell Bike Center. So it's just the two of us, and then we get a space from the Dell Athletics, and they give us room. All right, just how, just represent what we do. Last term, we serviced 586 bicycles from other people. That number is probably closer to 700 because we tally it ourselves, and including myself, I constantly forget to fill in the form of how many bikes I have in my shift. So, and October we saw, which was our greatest increase this year, we saw 75 people last year in October, and this year we had 250. Our busiest 2 months are always September and October, just the fresh students, and then right now we're only getting about 15 or 10 people a month for December, January, and February. So programs that we run out of the Dell Bike Center include the Dell Bike Loan. We lend a bike for up to 3 days for free to any Dell student or a faculty member. We do lend to alumni as well, but I don't think we only had ever one come in. And last year we lent out a total of 302 bikes with separate loans, and that was just a fleet of 11 bikes is all we have. We are looking to increase that because in September, October, if you ever tried to get a bicycle to borrow, you might have found it pretty impossible. Just always gone. As soon as they're in, they're gone right away. So, kind of our future goals is continue education and awareness of the Bike Center. A lot of the students at DAL still don't know we exist. And I constantly talk to people who are like, oh, my bike's broken, I'm going to take a shop. I'm like, just bring it over to us, we can fix it for free. We'll help you fix it for free, and then we also teach you for the future how to fix it. We carry some of the basic parts, just like cables and brakes, and we sell them at cost to you, and then we'll put them on your bike for you. Not just the simple kind of stuff, more complicated stuff, parts you would have to get from that. We've also, from the DAL Bike Society, we have a internal and external coordinator. Our internal coordinator is actually a bike mechanic at NOS, and he is just kind of teaching our volunteers, and we're forever improving just the knowledge that we have in our volunteers, so they're getting better at their job and we can better service the DAL housing community. And then I guess our long-term goal is the Studley gym space we have is quite small, and whenever that new Dalplex is supposed to go up, or planning to go up, or trying to get a space in the bottom of that. That's all I got. Any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Dylan?
How are you not awesome?
How can we be better?
How can we be better? I guess it's more of just getting a lot more people. So we do have, like, even though we service like 200 people in September and October, there is still a lot more room to have more people come in during times we're open. And we just really need to improve our communications thing over there. So that's something we have been working on quite a bit. Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Bike Center, and when I got a bike, bought a bike and had no idea how to fix it, took it to the Bike Center and was helped and given sold parts for at cost, and incredibly wonderful experience. Especially like it's an educational experience as well, which is really cool. You actually learn how to fix your own bike if you're incompetent with that.
I actually should say close to cost. Round the number so it's easy.
Yes, William.
What events have you been doing in relationship to winter cycling?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
So, what events have you been doing in relationship to winter cycling? And
Oh, so for Winter Cycle Day, we had 2 booths. We had one at the DSU, and we also had one at Sexton. Unfortunately, Winter Cycling Day, it was a blizzard. So not too many. Well, there was some people who bought too many, and we were giving out free hot cider and buttons and granola bars that we did with the Loaded Lady helped us out with that.
What are your summer rentals like?
Our summer rentals, I have them in my bag, the number, but they're like more than the winter, but less than the spring. In the summer we just have, we don't, a lot of the volunteers, because it's completely volunteer based when the center's open. It's just having people there to rent the bikes out, because we found we had a problem this summer, so. I don't know, we're looking for more volunteers in the summer, but they're kind of hard to find, so. If you want to direct on the right, get it. Yes.
How are you looking at expanding your fleets in the future?
So during September and October, we have, like right now, our he's in the center and all the bikes are jammed in there because no one's really borrowing them. But we're looking to like put bikes somewhere else in the winter, and we can store them somewhere else, and it's just more of whipping our levy money, buying new bicycles and adding to the fleet. So we buy a standardized bike from Mac, and that's the one we constantly, because it's cheaper to repair and it's pretty tough. Ish.
Any more questions for Ryan? Yeah.
I mean, let's say 5 years down the road, you have a lot of bikes. Like, would you ever consider setting up a bike share or something like that?
Pardon me?
Would you ever consider setting up a bike share or something like that? Like, once your fleet reaches massive size.
What do you mean by a bike share?
Like,
Just
meaning, for example, I drive a bike down to Sexton, I leave it there or something. Or like,
Oh, yes. When the program first started, there used to be someone used to have at Sexton. But the problem was all the bikes got to Sexton and then they never came back. Right now, we couldn't do that because they're constantly gone, but it definitely is a possibility. It's not ruled out, but I wouldn't see it being done this year or next year, but yeah.
Any more questions for Roy? We have about another 6 minutes allocated. Yes,
Do folks ever run any workshops or things like that? And where do you usually hold them?
Yeah, so we do have a bike teaching workshop, and that is Wednesday nights now, and that's just at the center. If you were interested in going to that, I would email the Dell Bike Center. It's just bike and ctr@dell.ca, and that will give you all the information on what time is that. I don't run that, so that's one I got.
any more questions for Ron? If not, then I'd like to thank you for your presentation. All right. The next item on the agenda is a presentation from the VP Academic External. Did you want me to throw anything up on the thing?
No, I
No?
don't know.
Okay. So you'll have no more than 15 minutes and then some time for questions and answers.
So, as usual, anytime that I wind up saying something in council, the biggest thing that I'm asking for is questions. So I'll give you like talking points, tell you a bit about what I'm doing, and then hopefully it'll just generate discussion more than anything. Here we go. So the first thing I want to address is the appendices that you got from me. One of them is called a snapshot of advocacy at the Dalhousie Student Union. I'd like to explain that this is something that I wrote the book of, and by the book of I mean everything that you've gotten in front of you. We had a discussion at the Academic and External Affairs Committee talking about what we wanted to do after realizing what was happening with the APC. Gave the options, and the most realistic option was the committee writes a report. The second thing that happened was that we received a petition, the Dalhousie Student Union, calling for this general meeting, met again as a committee, and in that meeting it was, okay, now we have 2 weeks, what do we do? It was like, can we write a report? And I said, yes. This would be that report. This report was up just under a week ago online for everyone within the committee to edit if they wanted. So what I received now is actually just what I called, when I sent it out, a complete draft, meaning that it's still open for edits online. Members at this point, because it was a short notice thing, still have the opportunity to go through, read it, make changes to it in any way, and then will likely be re-released once all of those are incorporated. So that was the first thing. The thing I also wanted to clarify, another thing that I attached was Students of Nova Scotia self-report that they did, self-evaluation. I just received forwarded to you from the executive director, just clarifying that the copy that I sent you was actually incomplete as well. That was what I had saved to my laptop. The full thing is available online on their website. If you look on Twitter, they just tweeted that at me in the Gazette a little while ago. But hopefully within the next little bit, you'll get an email from and me just directing you there. So that was the first thing I wanted to cover. The report, very briefly, it's about 16 pages. It doesn't really take a stance on one way or another. All it says is this is one of them, this is another thing, here's another option, and here's independent advocacy, what we could do with it, a little bit about what we've been doing with it, but mostly just, again, posing questions and giving you very, very straightforward information. It's not an opinion paper in any sense of the word. Second thing I want to talk about that's come up a little bit is action with government. We just had our most recent Student Government Roundtable last Wednesday. Student Government Roundtables are when the provincial organizations that represent students, so that's Students of Nova Scotia and the CFS in Nova Scotia, come, along with representatives from almost every, if not a majority, Rams, tell me if I'm right, of the universities from within Nova Scotia. So Dallas at the table, Katie's at the table at this point, St. FX was there, King's is there, MSVU, St. Anne's shows up, which is fantastic, she's a long drive. I'm missing people, but you get the general idea. Everyone is given a chance to have an audience with the government. So I would like to dispel the idea that at no point do we ever get to sit down face to face with the minister, with the deputy ministers, and with their there's one deputy minister, his name is Duff Montgomery, and all of their directors to just chat about what's happening and to voice our concerns. Talk about issues, talk about what they're working on, and that's our main arena for the MOU. That's our understanding, which we found out at this meeting after I asked, will actually be signed in late spring. They're hoping for by the end of March. That was as specific as it got, which is really unfortunate because we've been talking about this now for, I don't want to say over a year. I personally have been at this table for almost a solid year now. They don't have a draft of it available for us yet. They also have a tuition paper that they're working on. We haven't seen a draft of that at this point. The draft of the MOU, when I asked for it, was told that it's early days, which you can imagine is probably not necessarily the case if this MOU is this huge document and is coming out in about the space of a month. So unfortunately, I don't actually have, that's the biggest update I can give you on the MOU, and it's been really sad to come here every time that I've talked about the MOU and just say the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. And now at this point, again, the most specific I can get is like late spring, March. Things that were mentioned were tuition reset. I had liked to think at one point that that was something that was very, very far off and no one was actually going to consider, but it was explained to us as a viable option, if not necessarily in this MOU, to be implemented within the province. That's upsetting. If anyone has any questions about what exactly tuition reset is, I'd be happy to explain it very vaguely. They believe that the cost of certain university programs or degrees are frozen at artificial levels. So let's say that in 1990 at St. FX, a degree in liberal arts cost $6,800. At this point, this is so hard to explain. Trying to inflate it so that all of the degree prices are relative to one another at all of the different universities and are meeting their actual cost projected for the current year. So basically what that could mean for some people, a very marginal increase. It could mean almost nothing. For other degree programs, as we saw, for example, last year in dentistry, which we had a huge problem with, was knocking everything up 36% over just so that it met the median cost across Canada. There was, understandably, if you know anything about the buildings over dentistry in the program itself, it's a very expensive program to run. I believe it's the most expensive program at the university. Needs serious facilities upgrades, but the rationalization given was, now we're at the median, along with every other dentistry program across Canada. Personal opinion, you should be able to give our dentistry students decent and adequate facilities without jacking your tuition up in that way. We all need good facilities, dentistry, everything specifically. Student Government Roundtable. That's it. Recent meetings with political parties to discuss post-secondary education. In the past 2 months, we've met with every political party, representatives from all of them. Education critics discuss what's happening in Dalhousie, discuss what's happening wider in Nova Scotia. One of the biggest things that's concerned me that I've heard from a number of the reports that the government and that separate university presidents have released is this idea, and it was out kind of as a joke about a decade or maybe 2 decades ago, that there's super in Nova Scotia. I think that every single university here is important, has its own culture, has its own system, it's its own university, and I've been very, very heavy advocating that we keep all 10 universities. Each of them is an asset, and each of them in their individual right is important to the province. That's come up with all of them. The other thing that's obviously come up is university funding, asking for funding. We were really well received by the Progressive Conservative Party. We had a great conversation with them. That was really nice. They actually agreed to put in a freedom of information request for us around the very, very inadequate government consultations that were done around the MOU by the Liberals in November. Conversations with admin. Advocacy doesn't only happen for me because my portfolio is split. It's not just external, it's academic. On the academic side, the first thing to cover is conversations with the admin. As Rams alluded to today, talking about the BAC, that's the Budget Advisory Committee. The budget is, the way that money is allocated in this university is one of the things that brought me into student politics. The lack of respect for how important tenured professors are, treating our teachers at this university, teachers for a reason, is often kind of placed to the side for the using the language of austerity around our budget, saying we don't have enough money for this, we don't have enough money for this. I firmly believe that in every single faculty at this university, we need to find the money to have the most qualified professors, and so that put those professors in a position where they're most comfortable and most qualified to teach us what it is that we need to know for our degrees. So just reiterating that consistently with the administration. The system we currently use now for allocation of funds is called ERBA, that's enrollment-based budget allocation. It's a complicated system, mostly because they've made a number of changes to it over the years to try and make it more fitting for the university. Basically what it means is that the money that you get allocated by the university from the big pool is based upon your enrollment. There are a number of factors that affect that. Some programs are ERBA exempt, and some programs just have different amounts of money that come from different places and therefore account for enrollment in separate ways. It's a bit complicated, but it's one of those things that if you came into my office and you sat down and you had a question about ERBA, I'm happy to talk to you about it. I will be honest, I will probably rip it apart to you. It's my favorite thing to do. And I don't say that just from the stance of it's a crap system, get rid of it. I say that from having read about the systems used for budget allocations in other universities across North America and across Europe, and knowing that there are much better systems that work. They work elsewhere, and they could potentially work here. Next thing to talk about, dentistry continuing. It's been a continuing conversation. The biggest thing, and this crosses over with Senate, the biggest thing we've been advocating for is that make sure that all of these students are being treated fairly. Make sure the process is continuing in a way that the students are happy with, people feel comfortable, and that concerns are being addressed. And that no one's overstepping their bounds. And I have to say the administration has responded pretty well to this. Cleaning the sidewalks was something we brought up, and I was super happy to see Tim Biscay actually wrote an article about how damn nice our sidewalks are. I had a bunch of meetings with students about how the university is literally inaccessible when the sidewalks are covered in ice. A couple of students talking to me about something as simple, if you want to think about a real example. One person was talking about how she had a concussion. And so if you slip and you fall and you hit your head after you've had a concussion, there's a really good chance you don't wake up again. So it seems maybe like a minor thing to a lot of people, but walking to school on ice-covered sidewalks can be terrifying. It can also mean the difference between going to class and not going to class. And it's a university, we have to try and make it so you can get to class. Really happy to say the administration, look at the sidewalks. It's fantastic. Really happy with that. I know, right? Really good. 5.2, diversity and inclusiveness, is a task force created by the president in response to the dentistry scandal that happened. I sat on it. That was a personal decision to use my time in that way. I will admit that I wasn't a very active member of the committee. Initially I was, but it was a very fast-acting committee. There were over 60 meetings in the course of about 3 weeks. That's a lot. That's a huge take on time. The report's being released this week. I was at a drop for it today. We had an official media presentation. It's focused around 6 separate points about the aspects of being a student. Like I said, it'll be dropped tomorrow. The short version has 15 recommendations. Just to go quickly into Senate, again, academic advocacy is kind of my jam. What was I going to say? Advocating in committees for courses and funding, and advocating for fair treatment of all students. It's the biggest thing. Dentistry was useful in the sense that it brought it back to the table of how do we treat our students? How as an administration do you view these people when they come to your door and they ask you different questions? And I have to say that it's important for us to continue the conversation. We've been doing that at every single meeting. I would like to, I think, go to talk a little tiny bit about what's been happening with Students of Nova Scotia. Been attending board meetings. I was at the last one. I reached out to them in the past week about what I could communicate at this meeting, what could happen for Friday. I can show you the emails. I'm happy to. We had a phone call on Friday just talking about, Rums was unable to attend, unfortunately. He was in Toronto. I was on the phone with them for about an hour just talking about what happened, what the steps are, around this has been. We definitely disagreed on a couple of points. I was pretty surprised to not get actually the letter today that was written about me. If you have any questions at any point about my participation in Students of Nova Scotia, I'm happy to answer them. I have to say I did ask a number of times at this table if anyone wanted to be involved. I did send them lists of emails of people they can get in touch with, and they did reach out to a couple of people, Amelia included. It's provincial advocacy. We attend a lot of meetings together. We attend a number of things. 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm going to cut right there so you can ask me questions.
Any questions?
Also getting a little clearly It's been an interesting day. Does anyone have any questions for me around any of this part?
I was just saying, excellent job on this entire document.
Oh,
it's great, and I know it's not easy to write from a very neutral position about stuff like student advocacy. You did an amazing job, and it's one of the best written things I've read in a long time, and I've read a lot of this kind of crap. I guess.
You call it crap, that's welcome.
No.
I totally understand.
I guess my question is because I made an ass of myself and talked about something in the letter that I didn't actually understand. So the letter I distributed said there was 6 meetings missed without given or whatever. And I guess can you just explain your side of that? Because I feel like I'm just missing some context to there. Because
The first thing, one of the things referenced in the letter was the summer orientation things. I think I missed at least one set of them. They had the monthly things set up, which I didn't expect to have that much time given to the organization initially. I was late by a day to one of them. I drove with Roms to Cape Breton. We're back from Cape Breton with Roms. So I wasn't there for the entirety of the summer things. I definitely didn't miss them altogether though. As far as meeting attendance goes, Roms and I have done this really cool thing where we both show up to the meetings. I was under the impression that we both had a vote. I don't know why I thought that, but I just did. So we've been showing up together for most of them, but when one of us can't make it, usually the other one goes. Most recently, I feel like it feels like a real kick in the head, because I've been going to most of them very recently. The letter sort of makes it sound like, I ought not to be trusted as a board member, not to listen to my opinion, and if that had happened, if that were the case after 6 meetings, I just wish that I would have been informed so that I wouldn't be reaching out to these people to come at the meetings and going to board meetings for an entire weekend. But yeah, I'm not the best on sending regrets, also not the best on sending something let's say, a council report. I don't know if you have any experience with that, but usually pretty good at taking ownership of that. But yeah, we were, overall, I promise you, your entire union was represented at most of those meetings. Let's say maybe not 2, and that's ballparking it, because I haven't actually checked.
Thanks.
Sure. Does anyone else have any questions?
Sure.
Thank you for covering everything. That just gives a highlight of what's been happening. I've got 4 questions, and please do not take me in a wrong way, just to keep the executives on their toes. My first question, considering the fact that the Advocacy Planning Committee chair resigned, I think it was your responsibility to take up that matter and call for a meeting as soon as possible, just not telling that we don't have a chair that's resignated. Do you hold yourself completely responsible for not having an APC meeting to date? Do you hold yourself responsible for not having an APC meeting till date?
Yeah, and I think I held myself responsible from the beginning. As I reported to council, it was chair resigned, reached out to everybody, not exactly coming together, and then took care of it in A&E. What was the other? We have 3 more.
Yeah, 3 more.
Ready?
So when you said you have been discussing most of the APC things in the academic and external, right? Because we didn't have a chair, so we didn't call meeting. Right. So how many academic and external committees have been called so that you were able to draft that SNS report, I think, or that report that had SNS and CASA and everything? So how many meetings, and what was maybe I'm having many questions. So what was the involvement of the other that committee members in helping you to draft that report?
As I mentioned at the beginning, I wrote the report. The report is my work. The report has been available online for just under a week. I think I posted it not in complete draft form, in almost complete draft form last Thursday, available for edits. By Friday, it was still there. By Saturday, the complete draft was there. So they could have edited it. It was open for edits for, just like I said, under a week by a day. The number of meetings we had for the A&E committee, really, it's a lot. I've called probably 4 meetings in the past 2 months, I think, and met quorum for at least 2 of them. Communicate a lot via email, specifically around this, because it was reading week, because the last meeting that I called was the Friday previous to reading week. The one person who showed up was Scott from planning, because he showed up to everything. He's fantastic. And we just had a quick talk about it, and I said, I'm going to be writing this report. This is not that Scott. We just wound up having a really informal discussion. That was the last meeting I called. We obviously didn't have quorum. One person showed up, and then continued the conversation online. If I don't answer anything, just tell me, because I'm gonna forget.
So,
I'm really frozen.
before I can ask my third question, I just have an added additional question to the second question. When you say, so, sorry, Chair, can I? Yeah. So, can I?
Nod.
He said yes. So when you say that that's just a draft and you're going to have a final report with all comments from the committee members after being discussed, so is it going to be a report motion that was mandated in the Feb 26, 2014 council meeting where the motion was passed as per the terms of reference?
No, it's not going to be up to the exact standard set out in that original thing. One of the discussions that we had within the A&E committee, and I do actually have meeting minutes, I got your email about this. One of the things that we discussed was that last year the process failed pretty miserably. They came up with a report. I didn't actually wasn't as critical of it as everybody else. Again, it needs to be a bit more. Sorry. And it's giving me ambiance. The biggest thing that I've been looking at is like, how do we make this happen in a better way? Quick, like cursory answer to that is I spoke with ROMs within this week just about making this governance review, just like putting advocacy there. Getting a group of students together, any group of students, part of council, mandated by council, who kind of just get tossed into this, like by a vote at a meeting. Now, come together, write a 60-page thesis, like essentially, we want you to write a thesis about student advocacy. At the same time, we want you to do consultations. It's just not that damn realistic. It's just not. And I'll take total ownership this year over it not going the way it was meant to go. I respect that people like put work into making this process, coming up with these terms of reference, like making something out of it. But like, unfortunately, again, it didn't work. And next year, the option that we're looking at, which we'll probably bring forward, is just we have a governance review happening. We're paying someone a little bucket of money. Tip a bit more in the bucket, add advocacy, and do it right.
Third question. Last two questions. Last two questions. So I remember you mentioned that you have been having a couple of meetings talking to folks on how things are happening. And I remember it was just once you came down for the SAC meeting that we have not had any communication since then of what advocacy issues are for section. Would you be able to tell me how advocacy related issues you found out what section is facing since after you attended the SAC meeting that was in the fall?
Sure. I will say first and foremost that I think that this kind of weird divergence about the university, I think of the university as the university, separating us each by campus seems a little bit sick to me. I understand that there are problems on each campus that are like drastically different. We do have like divergent goals in a number of ways. As one, my whole theory coming into this is that education is important and education is political. So the same things that you're facing on Sexton as regards to like funding, lack of proper facilities, your professors are not being treated the way that like anyone who might agree with like proper working conditions, they're not being treated the way they need to be treated. Your students are being like kind of taken for a ride in certain ways. I know the problems with degrees like internetworking, something you came to me a long time ago, something I'm still talking to students about, talking about the way that students are, what's the word when you pull them in?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, right? Taken from like international students, the way international students specifically, because I don't really do it by campus, I think that's weird, I do it by faculty, that makes more sense to me. The way that students, in particular faculties and programs, are like brought into that faculty and program is a much more interesting thing. If you look at something, you're a good example, it's really organic. A lot of people just apply to law, they kind of know what they want to do, they come in, they have to deal with a lot of stuff. You look at a program like internetworking, it's interesting, the number of people I've spoken to, it's more, I came here for this and then was told to do internetworking, or I came here for like internetworking for this one reason and then got led down this path that has put me here. And it's not that they're unhappy with the program, it's not that it's not a great program, it's just, how is my university treating these different people in these different programs? Like graduate studies, for example, I couldn't just look at Sexton, I couldn't just look at Carleton, I couldn't just look here. Graduate studies covers all three campuses now, including agriculture. The way that the funding is given out to our graduate students, I spoke with Nazneen, and that's not something that you speak to someone once about, and then you go and you fix it in 3 days. It's something that I want graduate students to be able to get advanced funding. They don't need to give you all of this paperwork. I'm an immigrant to this country too. I understand that when you show up and they ask you for absolutely everything, can you show me text messages saying that, you promised to do these 3 things? No, I can't, but I do need $500 to pay my rent and to buy food for the next 3 weeks. Is that possible? I'm clearly not going anywhere because you have all of my documents right now in your box. That's been important. And that, again, that's not by campus, that's by.
Thanks for that long answer. And the last question, and I'm sure their answer is going to be, it's a yes or no, and I'm sure your answer is going to be a yes. Would you mind sharing the academic and external committee's minutes with me?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. I'm done sharing.
Yes, that's neat.
Just to clarify some other things as well. From July to December, actually, we didn't have any academic and external committee, committee meeting.
That's not
and
true.
last December, probably one meeting has been scheduled, and then time has been changed in the last moment that I couldn't. I showed up at 5. It was supposed to start at 5, and it's been rescheduled at 4, and so I missed it. And in January, it's January and February, I believe it's 3 times or 4 times it said. And there were one time it was like 30 minutes meeting or kind of like 40 minutes meeting, and with Sexton, from Sexton, I need 30 minutes to come here, and after that I will have to go. If I am investing 1 hour to come and go, and coming here just for 30 minutes meeting, it didn't make any sense to me, and also there were no meeting agenda anytime. And actually, the day I started here as a counselor, sitting here as a counselor and representing DAGs, graduate students, my expectations were related with a lot about A&E committee, or like especially probably you and also advocate internal academic. Just because graduate students, I believe their graduate students, student supervisor issues, intellectual issues, their funding issues, RA issues, and their supervisory committee. Right now, PhD students supervisory committee adjunct decision has been changed, and that has been creating a lot of problem for PhD students. So there are so many other issues like reviewing mechanism of the graduate studies, and also there are so many other issues like graduate student related issues. I was sitting here just to see graduate student issues being focused, or any person working in graduate student issues, just because DSU and DAGs are also related. DSU is representing 18,000, and in that 18,000 we are around 4,000 as well. So we are a big portion. But what I found is like nobody is actually, if you are advocating even for graduate student issues, you never, last time in December I can remember, that one time you were saying that you are advocating for graduate issues with Fiona Black, if you can remember. And I told you, and also Basma told you to send us the report or like what you actually produced. So it's kind of like no kind of like sharing, or like what you guys are thinking about graduate students, or what you are actually advocating in anywhere about graduate students. It should be known by graduate students. It should be conducted with the graduate students as well. Since our graduate student body is sitting here or like existing here. So my expectation will be.
Point of order. I see that Vishwa has a point of order.
Not actually. I'm going to like speak after her turn.
Oh,
Okay,
I thought you had a point of order.
No.
So my expectations, I'm not saying that I am also new in this council, and also like I was expecting, but I would expect that whoever comes, since it's going to be finished very soon, your committee, but whoever comes next, there should be this kind of things that graduate students issues should be addressed by the DSU very prominently, so that we don't feel like ours, like when you think about every single issues, graduate student issues actually varies. Our dimensions is different. Like you, if you say that you are you have tomorrow exam, you are really mentally like upset or like tensed about that, stressed about that. Our stress is my supervisor didn't give me time today. My supervisor behaved bad with me. Our things varies, and also if you think that sexism or something, that's also varies. Like in graduate student, research-based students, our no formal group. So how it happens?
Point of order. Are you able to ask a question?
Oh yeah, sure.
I have a lot bit of latitude, but I'm wondering if there's a question.
Okay, I am finishing now. I have just another example. Like for graduate students, my lab mates behaved in a way that I'm a girl. That's sexism to me.
Yep.
How university is addressing. And there is like right now intellectual property and also students and supervisor rights. I've gone through the policies and all other stuff. Students have limited like rights if anything happens.
Point of order,
wrong.
we're still not on a question.
Uh-huh.
And it's been brought up already, like, we need a question. So we
Okay,
can
yeah,
keep going.
okay, I'm finishing that. So I would expect.
And it appears as if we're out of time, actually.
Okay. Okay, my expectation will be like that. from
I
the-
would still like there to be a question, so like I'm sure that was leading up to a question.
I'd like to point out that maybe I don't want to.
No,
I'm not mean to
have any questions, but I am just keeping my grief, or like if you can say that, commenting like that. I don't have any questions or something, but that was my expectations. That will be my expectations as a graduate student from DSU. Yeah, whoever now.
I mean, we've exhausted the time for questions, so if,
Motion to
yes,
extend.
by how long? Do you have a suggestion?
Oh, by 7 minutes.
Okay, second by Jamel. Any other suggestions? Is anyone opposed to another 7 minutes? Okay, is there any discussion around this? Perhaps we'll have a vote on it. Okay, so the question is whether to extend it by 7 minutes. Do you understand the question?
Yeah.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay, we'll end at 8:25. So Jacqueline, I mean, there's no question there, so
Actually, I just want to speak to that.
if you'd like to, then you're welcome to.
No, I think the way that, Nasim, the way that you phrased everything that you did just say, it was almost a bit like a really good Jeopardy question, and I don't mean that in like a derogatory way. It was, you know, what have you done for us? Here's all of this stuff that's happening to you. And I also completely understand being in a position where all of these things are happening and you don't feel like anyone is reaching out to you to actually do anything about it. Yeah, like, and I would never discount that, ever. And I will never discount that for anyone who brings anything to me. I will just do have to say that like anything, and I'm not always maybe good at like being there immediately, but like reach out to me for this. There's no way for me to know that. I'm not a graduate student, and as many people as I talk to, everyone has a different experience. If your lab mates were horrible because you're a woman, they're never going to tell me that.
I'm just giving example.
And that is unacceptable. But anything like this, and again, the A&E committee, one thing I will say, I know for a fact that we met in October or November. I remember I called the thing. I have minutes for them. I can send the minutes and I can show you that, but I do know that we met. If there's confusion around the time, I'll also clarify. At the beginning, we have such a big committee, I wanted to make quorum that what I tried to do was set 2 separate meeting times, so if you couldn't make one, you could make the other one, just to try and make it so that everyone could like have a chance to show up. Any other questions?
Next on the speakers list I have Vishwa.
So earlier you mentioned like some of the statements regarding internet working department. Like I'm an internet working student and I'm fully satisfied with what course like offers. But like what your statement like some of the statements that I take like according to my personal academic experience feels bad. Like I feel bad about that. So like every coin has like 2 sides. So maybe you have like seen only one side complaining students, and you have not met like other bunch of students like praising for it. Of course, like we are very like specialized course than computer and computer science or engineering, but like we are still the combination, and like some of my seniors got like 80K salaries even. So that is like success of like internet working students do after graduating from there. So that feels me like somewhat insult when someone like insults my course. Sorry for that.
I'd like
so
to
on what grounds actually you state that internet working is not a great program?
I have to tell you right now, you're completely wrong. I literally said internet working is a great program. Those were my words, and we can go back and we can listen to them.
Oh, okay.
What I was saying, the way that students get into this program, and some students, just like in my own program in Russian, sometimes people have complaints about things. Those are things that need to be addressed. It doesn't like damn the entire program. It just means that I was using it as an example of a program that I've heard from a number of students, a good number of students, that they had concerns with the way that they entered the program, and they had concerns with the way things were run within the program. It's not against what you're learning. It's not against your professors. It's not against absolutely anyone within the program as a person or a student. It's just, it speaks to the larger idea of how students come to this university, how they're treated once they get here. I did not mean to insult your program.
I have Taylor.
Okay. Thank you for that. But that was a very thorough report, so thank you for saying and for fielding all the variety of questions. My question is around kind of like your opinion moving forward to next year. So like I agree that I think like the potential of hiring a governance consultant is a good idea after we discuss it more. But like back in May when we were deciding what to do around the A&E committee and the ARC, the Academic Review Committee, you were a big. But the ARC committee underneath academic and external, because that was procedurally what should have happened. But a worry that I expressed in May and a few other people expressed was that putting advocacy underneath academic and external committee, which hadn't met very actively for a few years, would potentially bury it, and then we never actually get to talk about advocacy this year. And as a committee member, I would echo the earlier comment that like the committee did meet in October for the first time, but like the committee, other than the past 2 weeks, which have been very functional, other than that, like I would to say that in my opinion, the committee has been very dysfunctional all year and like hasn't really done anything except for the past 2 weeks, like around this SNS stuff, and that stuff has been great. But so given like all this stuff and like in my opinion too, like around those graduate student issues, like the DSU has been doing a lot of great advocacy this year, but I think that advocacy has represented a certain subset of Dalhousie's population that put up at tonight's AGM, but it has by no means actually represented the interest of all Dalhousie students, and I think we need to do different types of advocacy for different students, but I think the DSU's advocacy has been more informal and like not based on recommendations of committees and stuff, so it's been expressions of often the most vocal students, and not all 18,000 students by any sense of the imagination. So all that being said, in your opinion, like moving forward, like what do you think, like let's say regardless of what happens Friday around SNS, like what is the best way to like democratically, and I don't know the answer either, so I'm asking, but like democratically find out what issues are important to not just students that are used to going to protest and that are activists, but to all Dalhousie students who may not know the systems that at work and grad students, etc., etc.
Probably might not like the answer that anyone would be looking for, but unfortunately the way that it's set up, you have students who are like highly informed of what's going on, you have students who are highly educated about what's going on. They don't always mesh. Oftentimes they do, the way student politics works, and you can talk about a GM having 100 people not being representative of a body, right? You have 5 people sitting at the front of the room who are supposed to represent the entire student body. Proportions here are not actually what we're working with in like a very direct way, right? That was never the game. As far as advocacy goes, the thing that I spoke about last year and being so excited about was that being able to address the changing nature of advocacy. I could not have told you for certain, I definitely heard whispers of it in the summer, that dentistry was going to be something that would take up 2 months of my life as an executive here. I don't think any of us knew that. Yep. No matter what we like heard, what we may have like guessed at, that was not something that we saw happening. The fact that that brought up the issues of misogyny on campus, sexism on campus, homophobia on campus, the way that oppression stems into absolutely every aspect of our lives as students, in one way, was a great conversation starter. In another way, like, took up a lot of time. That's something where when we have the resources on campus to handle it, we go for it. That's something where I'm not going to get to talk to 18,000 people and ask them what they think about what happened in dentistry. I'm going to get 18,000 different answers. What I do know, being someone who's looked at this and who's dealt with this for the past couple of years, and who, shockingly enough, like I actually genuinely give a shit what happens to all of you, I know that advocating against sexism, against general oppression of the students at this university, even though some of them use those words, don't use these phrases, is something that I was voted in to do. We have money here on campus to do it, we have some resources to do it, and again, they're going to change from time to time. Different things like Divest Dal are going to come up, and you can say that that's a very specific issue. I'm not going to talk about it on behalf of 18,000 people. Divest Dal is going to reach out to you, do their own engagement, and make it happen. All of this is to say that trying to say in May, these are going to be our advocacy goals, that's one thing. Recognizing in May that you know as students that, like, let's say funding is an issue, let's say if you're me, tenure track professors are an issue, and let's say sexism is an issue that you want to talk about advocacy-wise as a union for a year, great. Come September, things might switch. Come December, things might really switch. So establishing those things is important. Finding a mechanism to do that, I generally think that maybe this governance review, maybe doing like some type of other form of consultation, maybe looking at the previous year, what came up, what worked for students, what did students really seem to care about. Oftentimes it's going to be the vocal ones, that's what happens. If it means something to you, you talk up about it. And one of the biggest things we've also, like, that came out of this, trying to get people to talk up. It's not easy. Using council effectively would be fantastic. If everyone in this room, like everyone at this table, walked out and talked to 10 people, it'd be beautiful.
Thank you, and I note that we are at the end of our allotted time. But I want to thank Jacqueline for that presentation and for answering the questions.
Point of privilege.
Yes?
I have two things to say. I'll be very brief. It's point of privilege. First, this is not an effective use of counsel, or we should reconsider what an effective use of counsel is. I think it's important for us to be meeting with executives if we have problems to raise. Second of all, the fact that the hotspot right now is severely imbalanced is a problem. So advocacy is more than Jacqueline, it's also ROMs and executive in general. And so the fact that it's severely imbalanced is a huge problem. We need to consider that.
Okay. Let's move on to the board caucus report. And so I will ask Rand what happened at the last board caucus, or at the last board meeting.
Yeah, nothing. There was a student experience meeting, committee meeting today, but it got cancelled because of the GM. And yeah, we're just waiting for the next one.
There's a few of us that met about the Board of Governors Award winners, and so that was a really great meeting. Great to see all the applications. Of course, that's confidential, but we'll find out soon.
And any questions for Rams, Rebecca, or John arising out of the board report? Yes, board.
I'm just wondering why it's always confidential. I don't know if it's like because
they don't want us to know. I mean,
Dal's pretty secretive,
okay.
frankly.
Yeah. Well, things like that meeting, it's like we were deciding who's going to win awards that are going to get announced at the Impact Awards. So like, if I told everyone here, it would kind of ruin the surprise of like the Impact Awards, right?
Yeah, that makes
But I think a lot of the stuff that happens, at least in like in-camera sessions in the board meetings, are potentially about like staff members, like hires, senior administrators being hired, like changes being made, or bigger budget items that like I guess they don't want like external influence or like changes to be made before.
Okay, cool.
Any further questions? Yes, Suzanne.
Would you guys be able to carry to the Board of Governors that it's very for having student representatives who should report back to students and representatives of students, that it's very frustrating that for the past 3 reports, like it's an in-camera, sorry, we can't report that. So I don't know, it's just frustrating. I like to know, I would like to know what's happening in the Board of Governors, and so far it's all been like confidential, which to me, let's be frank, it's a question of accountability with the Board of Governors, so I you know, it would be wonderful if you guys carry that message.
Dan?
Is there a way that you could write a report that would be sent to us that you could send to someone to vet out the information that they really wanted to make sure that wasn't on there?
Yeah?
We can ask, yeah.
We could like
I tried to use them.
Yeah,
I asked
I
about
don't know,
something similar.
because I'm sure there's things that they talk about in camera that don't need to be in camera. But like,
I've asked about kind of similar stuff before, and it kind of is like policy is in camera, is in camera.
yeah,
But anything that happens in like an open meeting,
yeah.
we can tell.
William?
I'm just wondering if we can also ask that for items that at least are coming up in the public meetings parts of that, if accompanying documentation can also be presented in a manner that's available to the public at some point, that'd be great.
Yeah, I have made those asks. I am happy to do them again. What they told me was yes, and then didn't do it.
Any further? Kaylee?
It might be just worth considering, and I can touch base with the board reps about filing some Freedom of Information Act requests if council is concerned about things that, specific issues that are being discussed that we're not getting information on. We can't just do general requests, but we could get some information about specific issues if people want to know, for example, about things related to dentistry or things mention quick, William, I did ask Susan Brousseau, who's like the secretary of the board, about the last meeting. There was like a presentation given to us about the new fitness facility. And I emailed her to ask if we could get it, and then she emailed back saying, you know, like, we don't want to set precedent of sharing that information as it's considered for board members. She did actually send it to me and tell me that I could share it, so if anyone wants the fitness facility presentation.
Any further questions arising out of the board report? Okay. See none, we will move to the consideration of the referendum questions. And so there are 5, which council today will decide whether or not they go forward to the student body. The way this works is that we need to hear from BOPs that they were reviewed. We need to hear from the elections committee that they were reviewed. And do I even see that Dylan is here?
Are you looking for someone from CKDU?
No, Dylan.
Dylan.
Yeah.
He tweeted he had a headache.
Well, so do I, but I'm still here.
Can you tweet it? No,
I don't have Twitter. Maybe I should get Twitter.
Then you do it. There's no changes proposed by the election.
So, it's saying, Kaylee, that the elections committee has reviewed all 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
I provided, what I'm saying is that I provided the questions and contact information for everyone involved in the questions to Dylan. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So we need Dylan to be here, or at least someone from the elections committee to be here, because the Constitution requires that the elections committee review the questions. And so, I mean, I've reached out to Dylan many times through email and in person, and he knows that he should have been here. Yes, Aaron?
Can we proceed with the presentations and text him?
That would be, I think, the thing to do. Yeah, if anyone has his number or
I
something.
think it would also be possible for council to conditionally accept them as long as they've been reviewed by the elections committee.
And so what deadline, well, I guess it goes to him anyway, right?
Yeah, and then if they,
So
if
what
for some
deadline?
reason they haven't been reviewed, then the Friday council meeting could address any discrepancies.
And so what deadline is Dylan looking at for getting this rolling? Like in terms of the elections?
All 5 of them?
Oh, the nominations open on Monday.
Right. Okay. So if he's here Friday, then that would work as well.
Yeah, but I think council should discuss these and
Yes, I
or conditionally decide on them.
Okay. That's fine.
He confirms all 5.
I mean,
Can we calling him so you can actually hear him say it?
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna put you on speaker. Yo.
Hey, Dylan.
Hang on, 1 second. I think, let's hope he's not in any sensitive position. Well, not like that.
That's how I get my
I would suggest not putting him on speaker and then requesting permission to put him on speaker.
Yeah.
And then we can.
Yeah, Renz, yeah.
I'll leave him a voicemail.
Okay, we can still proceed here. So the point is that BOPS needs to confirm that they've reviewed it. The elections committee needs to confirm that they've reviewed it. And then for each question, representatives from the society need to confirm that they're in agreement with the wording. So that's the process that goes on here. And after all that happens, then council votes to refer it to the election, and it requires 2/3 majority. And so if we're all with the same understanding of how to proceed here, I would propose to move to the first referendum question regarding the CKDU. And so firstly, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Vishwa, seconded by Yazan. And so temperature check, would people like the proposed referendum question read, thumbs up, or not read, thumbs down? In the people who do not want the question read prevail. And so, I mean, at this point, Jen is here, I believe?
Yep.
Yep. So, to speak on behalf of the CKDU? No?
I'm not Gianna.
Oh, no, you're, yeah.
I'm Jordan.
Yep.
I'm a volunteer with CKDU. I've been on their staff and chaired their board for a number of years, and I'm still an active volunteer. Gianna's in Banff on a residency, and tonight is the homelessness marathon for CKDU, so a lot of our staff are tied up there.
Okay.
But I was asked by Janet today to just come and like
Perfect.
do this as well.
Okay.
So would you like me to speak to it, or is it?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to, and then
Questions?
counselors will be able to ask questions, so please, yep.
Yeah, I have no remarks prepared, but basically CKDU hasn't received a levy increase since their incorporation 30 years ago. They just celebrated their 30th birthday at the beginning of the month. Their capacity in terms of what they're able to pay for has gone down. We used to have 5 staff core staff positions. One of them was lost 2 years ago due to the fact that as inflation rises, we can't pay for as many things, and there's a lot of higher overhead costs. We recently had to move our we just built a completely new control room. We just put a new mixer in the master control room. There's a lot of like large technical pieces that make a radio station function that a lot of our money has gone into updating after 30 years over the last couple of years. And so we see what that reflects is having to get rid of staff positions that support the students and volunteers that come to you. It means that we're not able to do as much outside of the radio station. The radio station still has strong content and is running 24/7, but it decreases the ability to do things like direct outreach, direct partnership with societies, and kind of things that happen off the airwaves and on the campus. Our capacity when we don't see increases in funds. So this is asking for pretty small, it's 25 cents per full-time and 50 cents per part-time student increases to our levy. That would go to just accounting for inflation and allowing that our staff have the capacity to make a radio station run, but also engage the campus that it runs on and just are able to do more broad work with campus and community.
So thank you. Any questions? Or not just for CKDU, but for anyone really surrounding this proposed question? This is the time to, okay, Bart?
Sorry, are we just point of information, are we just on questions, or there's also motivation involved here as well?
It can be a question, it can be, you could be expressing your opinion, it could be questions to the wording, it could be all that kind of thing.
Okay, I would then I guess just like state my opinion, because I do love the sound of my own opinions. I definitely think that we should be passing this. I'd actually just like to speak kind of the next couple of motions. The idea that we as a board are a question of this nature going to the general meeting is kind of silly, I think. We should pass all of these because we should trust students to actually vote in their own interests at a general meeting. Like, there's no reason for us to be the gatekeepers here. I actually just proposed a change to the LSS Constitution to remove this aspect from our board, and I guarantee you, next, maybe not on Friday, but the meeting after that, you'll see a motion to do something similar here, because we should not
Point of
be the
information?
gatekeepers to the, yeah.
Sorry, aren't we supposed to keep our discussion to the presentation, or what we are proposing,
No,
changes
so,
of?
yeah, so
I'm
this,
not sure, sorry,
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
It's a good question, and so this is the opportunity to ask questions, okay, but it's also the opportunity to speak. I mean, it's also the opportunity to express your opinion on the matter and to suggest change to the wording of the amendment, right, or of the referendum question. And I just want to clarify, we're not sending.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not
you're
sending
right.
this. I just want to clarify, we're not sending this to the general meeting, right? We're sending it to the student body at the elections, right?
Oh, okay, sorry, I apologize. I thought it was referendum at general meeting, not at elections. That's
fine.
That's my mistake, I apologize.
Okay, so the next person on the speakers list is Vishal, I believe.
Being like DSU counselor and being in CKDU as an IT technician, I like totally agree with these wordings and their levy increase, because like right now we are struggling with our like older IT equipments, and even like for our upgradation we like ask quote from facilities management to add additional Ethernet ports, and like their quotation was like $9,000. So to run the station like very efficiently and like having IT resources updated, they should do this. So, yeah, that's all.
Is that?
I've noticed some of the programs on both demographics that are not well represented in mainstream media, including the Muslim community, the Arabic community. I know maybe weekly or so there's an hour allocated for Arabic broadcasting, which is very interesting to me. I don't find that anywhere in the radio stations that are available, and I think that the fact that there's a student-funded media outlet that provides an opportunity for students to voice their opinions, as well as different demographics that are not well represented to voice their opinions. I think that's very important. I would definitely, find the CKDU as I think that the CKDU has a positive impact in our community and in our university.
The floor is open. Yes, Ron.
I'd like to call the question.
Does the motion have a seconder? Okay, Danny. So there's no one on the speakers list. So
Point of
we'll move-
information.
Yeah.
Please, I have questions, please.
Okay. Well, there
sorry.
was no one on the speakers list. So the motion is to call the question. Calling the question would end debate, and we would move directly to a vote on the question whether or not to submit this to the student body. So do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Jamel dissented. Anyone else? Okay. So the question is on whether or not to submit the CKDU levy question to the student body during the elections. The wording of the question does have the approval of CKDU. We have written confirmation of that, and there have been no amendments to the wording at council, and so it will require 2/3 majority to pass. And so, do you understand the question? The question is whether to submit this referendum levy question to the student body at the elections on March 21st to 25th, I think it is. Okay, so this would be like a question on the ballot that people could answer yes or no to. And so, the wording has the approval of the CKDU. We have written confirmation of that, which is a requirement under the Constitution. I guess we don't know yet whether BOPS has even reviewed it because we didn't hear anything about that.
So I wasn't sure in the meeting where this actually happened, but so my understanding is that Bob's approved it, but Lou, I believe that you were in fact chairing that meeting. So maybe you could speak to it with a little bit more confidence than me.
Yes, Bob's up.
Andrew?
Yes, Kaylee.
BOPS has approved all
Okay.
motions except for the Dow Legal Aid one.
Yes.
If council wants minutes of the previous meeting where all that, I'm able to provide it. The most recent meeting minutes won't have been approved by BOPS yet, and they just deal with this alternate Southwest question, which is presented to you.
You can also
Okay.
speak to the legal aid when we get to there.
That's fine. And so, the only thing remaining is this committee has reviewed, right? So, why don't we give Dylan one more call? I'd feel a lot better about this if
He said he just did it. Is it an email?
he sent me an email.
Yeah.
Okay. The elections committee has reviewed and accepted the referendum. So we can all what Dylan is saying. And so the question again is to send that to the student body for a vote at the election. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Jamel voted against. Dan voted against. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on.
Motion omnibus, all of the referendum questions except for the D last one.
Does the motion have a seconder? I can't see who that is. That's Ali.
Look at the cool suede shirt.
Point of information.
Yes, Jonel.
Do you mind showing which motions are we?
Yes, so that would be Dal Out, Dal Outdoor Society, and South House. So the motion is to combine them into one vote. Yes, Jamal?
I think, I'm not sure if any councillor can ask for a division of that, and I would like to divide Dal from the motion that Jen put forward.
Sure, so it would be South House and Dal Out, and then Dal Legal Aid Society, and then Dal Outdoor Society.
Correct.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that? Is anyone opposed to that package, let's say? Okay, then we'll proceed in that manner. And so, the next one is Dal Legal Aid. And so, I'm in a conflict, we need another chair. Does anyone want to move the motion for me to recuse myself? Ali, seconded by...
Sorry, no, I actually have to say something that might be really relevant. This needs to be tabled.
Well, I still need to step aside for it to be tabled. I still need to step aside for it to be tabled.
Okay, that doesn't actually make any sense, but that's cool.
It does because...
To table something, you need to be within it, so to be within it, we have to move it, and for us to move it, he needs to be...
Seconded by Taylor. I'm in a conflict. I would advise anyone else who is on the board of any of these societies also to step aside, because if you vote to put it to the student body and it passes, then you're opening the society to liability on the basis that a person in a conflict of interest helped this thing come about. It's a favor that I'm telling everyone, and I hope that everyone understands it. Aaron.
Can we hold nominations for chair?
I'm asking if anyone opposes me stepping aside.
Andrew, can I just make a clarifying point?
Yeah.
That it's only if someone was receiving money in a true conflict of interest, but they might be in a perceived conflict of interest, just to make the distinction.
If you're on the board of the society, that's and the question passes, then you're the ones who are deciding how that money is allocated, right?
Yeah, but you're not I just want to be clear that it's a conflict of interest, particularly a pecuniary interest. I don't know that we need to, but just that I don't think that councillors who are on boards necessarily.
Well, there's still the perceived conflict of interest, so I'd invite, where's Rams? Okay, does anyone else want to chair for?
Yeah,
okay.
So bad. Would anyone like to, yes, Ellie?
Point of order. I believe that this agenda item is out of order, seeing as it hasn't gone past Bob's.
Oh, you're right, perfect.
We need a new chair.
He's back.
Why? Why can't I chair?
No, we have to do nominations for chair.
I nominate.
Thank you, I accept. Is anyone opposed to me being chair?
Nope.
Any opposition, any opposition, any opposition? Okay, great. Sorry, what were you saying?
Point of order. I believe that this is out of order because it has not gone through Bob's. For some context, everyone, the reason it didn't go through Bob's is because we just wanted to get a little bit more information from the society, and then we just had a communication mishap because the person who had that information couldn't make it to the meeting. So all that information's been distributed, and we're in dialogue with the society, answering everyone's questions, and we will have an email vote completed by Friday's meeting. So I would suggest that we table it until Friday's meeting.
Point of information.
Yes.
May I know what information were you hoping from that society?
Yeah, absolutely. So we didn't have their constitution, budget, or MOU. They actually sent us those documents in time for our meeting, and it was a miscommunication among the board that resulted in us not seeing them. But because of that miscommunication, we didn't want to pass without those things. Since we're in dialogue with them anyways, we're asking questions around their purpose as compared to the purpose of the DSU service it's already provided, as well as just we're getting a final confirmation that any DAO student can be a member of the society. So that's what we're in dialogue with them about now.
Point of information.
Yes.
I was told that the box just looks into the legalities of the motion and not what the purpose of the society is.
That would be
That's what I was told.
operational, because if there are two societies that we're funding that have the same purpose,
So you are.
and that's an operational item. So we're operations, legal, and financial.
I wasn't told that. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I wasn't told that Bob's looks into the operations. I thought it just looks into legalities. Was the
Board
comment
of
that was-
Board of Operations.
Yeah. It was in my orientation session that I gave at the counselor orientation that 7 people came to, and it is also in our policies.
Well, I completely trust the Bobs.
Great, thank you. But I'm also, it's nice that I'm here to answer questions, and I would encourage anybody to ask questions about the Board of Ops anytime.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking.
No problem.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, then I think it's out of order.
I do have a question. Is tabling this going to prevent them from having enough time to have the question?
We don't actually get to table it because it's been called out of order.
It'll be on, well,
like, it'll be in
maybe we
order
should
on
table it
Friday.
then, since it's gonna be on Fridays, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It won't be a problem because it's gonna be on Friday, so we'll be fine. Yeah.
Great, I would like to welcome the
Point
other.
of information?
Yes.
Sorry. So we are calling this out of order, but it's going to come in the 27th council meeting?
Friday.
That's day after tomorrow. So that's going to be time for the Bobs to interact on what the operations of the dial-up. Sorry.
Oh, the Bobs got their materials before, like they've already gotten them. We just haven't, like I wanted to give people enough time. It would have been rushed to have it today, so we're having it on Friday. Yeah.
Yes, Scott.
Is Friday the last day that this can happen?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very last.
And the line. Great, I'd like to welcome Andrew back to the chair.
Good job, Jen.
All right, so the next question is on Dal Outdoor Society. Or no, it's Dal out in South House, sorry. So, we need a mover and a seconder for Dal out in South House. Aaron and Yuzan. Temperature check. People like the Dal out motion, the Dal out referendum question red, thumbs up or not red, thumbs down. In my opinion, the people who don't want a red prevail. And what about South House? Red or not red? Okay, in my opinion, the people who don't want a red prevail.
Can I get a point of information?
Yeah.
The Senate has one?
Sure.
It's not both, or how does the two
Right,
different
so,
ones work?
right, so it was this morning that I got confirmation that Bob's and South House approved of the wording of this particular question, and I think I circulated an amended council agenda, it might have been around noon. And I want to thank everyone for in coming to an approved wording, and so we only have one question before council at this time, and you probably can't see that because it's kind of blurry and small. But if you look in your emails for maybe around noon today, you'll find the question. So we have the representative from Dallow is Ben, that's on council, but the rep from Dallow who's going to speak to the.
Well, we were both going to speak.
Sure. Okay.
If that's all right,
Yep.
like stand up, because no one can see me when I'm sitting down. So come to this meeting just so that we could have added representation from our board of executives. Dallout is the Queer Student Society at Dalhousie. What for students at the university is provide an introduction to queer culture and identity, kind of ease their way into university life, especially as queer students where that might be a little difficult. We provide panels, workshops on sexual health, on identity, on oppression. We specialize in all ages events and socials, mostly because a lot of our member base is underage right now, and so having bar-centered events doesn't work for them. We hold coffee houses, we host writers and activists. Just recently we hosted trans writer Serrano. And soon we'll be having our annual masquerade, which is kind of a big old gathering of every queer society from every university in Halifax. So we hold a lot of things to get everyone together and have people meet each other. Dallout itself is consisted of a rather wide member base. We have a 9-person exec. I'm the office manager and general dogs body, and Ben is DSU rep, as you know. With 7 other people, we basically run the show. We are all volunteers. We are not paid. We are full-time students. Just so you all know, it gets pretty wacky sometimes. We are looking to expand our library and our resources. We're looking to build up our book supply again so that we can provide information to the wider student body. And we also provide free sex health supplies to students. We keep them supplied on our door, so if you need condoms, dental dams, lubrication, any kind of that, any stuff like that, we keep it on our door and we provide it free. So that's who we are, and Ben's going to explain what we're looking for.
So what we're looking for is a 25-cent levy increase for all students. Currently, we receive no money from part-time students. We're looking to get 25 cents from them, and upping from 25 cents from full-time students to 50 cents from each full-time student. With that money, we'd like to hire a part-time volunteer coordinator to help coordinate the efforts of our volunteers, kind of steer us in a direction, help us increase our outreach and services.
Because as a 9-person exec and as the fact that we're all full-time students, we were talking about this earlier, and basically with our budget right now, we can either put on the events that we do currently and do a kind of okay, kind of meh, kind of rush job, haphazard a little, or we could get a volunteer coordinator, have that organization and that professionalism that we lack right now, because the average age of our exec is what, 19? I'm the oldest person on exec and I'm 22. So, you know, it's kind of, it's a throw together thing a lot of the time. So if we had that, the person who, you know, basically wasn't running around with like a chicken with their head cut off to kind of orient us and give us guidance, essentially, we would be able to do a much better job for the student body and provide more services and more events. And that's pretty much all we have.
Any questions?
Yeah, questions for us? Crickets? Yeah.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you. I agree. Our office is actually 321 across the way, so if you ever have the urge to visit during our office hours, please feel free to drop by. Our exec is great, and our volunteers are great. So.
Allie?
You guys are awesome.
Yay!
That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Motion to call the question?
Well, we have him from South Africa. Is Harry here? Yeah.
Can I go?
Please.
Hey everyone, we're running a levy campaign. You may remember us from last year, because we won a levy campaign by 52%, shout out. But Dal retroactively canceled it. Yeah, they told us there was errors in our formatting that, went through them. Yeah, but they benevolently decided to give it to us for 1 year conditionally if we ran again this year. So we're here to run for this levy again, to keep the levy that we have this year that we won last year. So yeah, so awesome things we've done this year with the levy increase that we got last year is we doubled our staff hours. We have 2 full-time staff, 9 to 5, like weekdays, the center is open. We've increased the amount of bursaries we give out to $3,000 this year. We've done over 15 workshops for groups both on campus and in the community. The most recent one was doing a workshop on like cultural competency for the entire staff of Pavia at the new library. In response to increased demand, we've distributed more pregnancy tests this year. There's a greater variety of sexual health supplies and menstrual health supplies. And we've had a lot of collaboration on big events, such as Julia Serrano. And we had money to support this awesome thing, Rad Pride, this summer, if anybody heard about it. Alternative series of Pride events. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
That's great.
Does anybody have any questions?
Is that?
I like the fact that you guys connected your struggle in terms of like what you guys struggle for and fight for with indigenous struggles. I know that happens a lot, not only here but also in other areas around the world. Living around from Palestine, I find it very informative. I find that connections made between different struggles is important. So I think that it's a very a very constructive thing that you're doing, not only for Dal, but also for the community at large here.
Any further questions or, yes, John?
I just want to say it sucks they have to do that again.
Yeah.
Like in the year of the dentistry scandal, the South House has to run an election. You have to just keep what it has. That's disappointing. And I'm going to vote for you.
Okay, so this is the time to ask questions of Harry or of the representatives. It's also the time to express your opinion on either of these referendum questions or to make suggestions to the wording. And is that Alan?
Oh no, it's Brogan. Close.
Brogan, sorry.
I'm just wondering, so it's gone through all these processes, there's no way that they can take it away again?
No, we double checked with Verity at Dal this morning to like triple check and make sure. It's been through Dal, it's been through DSU, it went back through Dal. It should be cool.
We have their approval in writing this time.
Oh, nice.
So
So you can like hold it up in front of their face and be like, you said this.
sure.
Okay, so it's also come to my attention that there's a correction that we need to make to the South House wording, and it's coming from the university. It's just a clerical error with respect to the amount of money for the part-time student fee. And so it's my understanding that it's actually 67 cents instead of 68. Okay, and that's coming from the university. Just okay.
That was my fault. I only changed the first 8 to a 7, and I forgot to change the second 8 to a 7.
So, I mean,
Question?
yes, he's out.
When did you receive this? Just right now? From the
No.
university?
It was brought to my attention by Rams that it hadn't been changed in the question as per a email conversation that I'm part of. So I think that the best way to proceed is that if there is no objection to saving it or to having it be 7, then it'll just go forward by unanimous consent. It's just that there is discrepancy throughout the universities. The university collects the fee from the DSU and then splits it up and then gives it all to us, and then we split it up. And so they don't actually really know if it's 157 or 158, and so or 067 or 068. And so this was the safe, from their perspective, the safe amount.
And I think I would feel more comfortable if maybe it was moved and seconded. So Rams and Jacqueline. Okay. Does anyone have any further questions around like that particular thing? So is anyone? So I mean, is that okay with Harry? With you, Harry?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. And so is anyone opposed to changing the wording of the question in this manner? Okay, then it will be changed to reflect that. If you say it a bit louder.
We call the question.
Seconded by Taylor. Okay, so there's no on the speakers list. And so we'll move directly to vote. And the vote is on whether to send to the student body the Dal out referendum question and the South House referendum question. And it will require 2/3 majority. Do you understand the question? All those in favor?
Just abstain.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes?
Am I supposed to abstain as DSU rep for the society?
I mean, it's a question of it's a question of your status in the organization, right?
Just say yes.
Okay.
Just abstain, get it noted, and then they're covered.
Yeah, I'll have it noted.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So the next question is the Dal Outdoor Society. And so, there you are, George. Does the motion to refer this question to the student body have a mover and a seconder? Aaron and Julian. And so temperature check. Would people like the proposed referendum question read, thumbs up, or not read, thumbs down? In my opinion, the people who don't want it read prevail. George, you're welcome to tell us about
Thanks
the
so much
question.
for your time. At the Outdoor Society, we run trips. We love the outdoors. We love activities outside. That's what we do. And we try and build a community around that and bring students on board with us. We've been growing for the past 2 years. We want to grow more. What it means as the student body as a whole is we sort of provide two benefits. The outdoors in Nova Scotia, we're like blessed. It's so beautiful. Has anyone been canoeing down in Keji? It's fantastic. The hiking there, oh, spectacular. It's great. And it's right at our fingertips. And it's such a shame that like we have students from out of province coming in, being surrounded in this 10-block housing, and then flying out for the summers, and never really getting to experience like Nova Scotia, you know? Going to Lawrencetown on a foggy day, it's beautiful. So we provide that access to like off the peninsula Nova Scotia, the real Nova Scotia. The second thing that we offer is our trips are all about confidence, all about student wellness. So student wellness is a fun buzzword that's been floating around for the last few years. It's all about de-stress, confidence building, all that good stuff. And we do that. When we go on like an overnight trip, the students come back and they're so happy and confident because they've slept in the woods for. It's great. You see, like, there's miles difference between the first picture of them at the start of the trip. The one sort of glum, getting out of the cars, and like, holy shit, where am I? And then at the end of the trip, they're like, wow, I did that. I just hiked 50 kilometers or something. It's great. It's really fantastic. So we want to build. We want to expand. More students, more trips. The biggest cost for us right now is transport, getting people out there. Right now, we carpool as much as we can. When we can't, we have to rent cars. This year, we spent $2,000 on renting cars. I mean, that's unsustainable. Now, the second biggest cost is renting equipment. Students from out of town, or students here, they may not have their own equipment. We have a lot of equipment right now. We have 13 tents. They're all broken. We need to fix them. We need new tents. We need new four-season tents. So when we go winter camping, we don't really freeze. We just sort of freeze. At the end of the day, we need money to expand and to fill these needs that we have. But more than that, we want to sort of grow outdoor programming at DAL in a sort of more general sense. So we could use the whole of the levy for ourselves. We could and it would be done like that. Every year we could use the whole thing. We want to do more than that. So the sort of model that we're working on right now is that 45% of the levy would be given to other outdoor related societies. These include such as the Scuba Society, the Surfing Society, the Ski Snowboard Society, the Slacklining Society, the Climbing Society, the Equestrian Society, the Bike Center. I mean, there are so many outdoor related societies, special interest groups that need help. These are all type 3 societies that the only funding they get is a $1,000 grant from the DSU. That is not enough to run a trip. That is not enough. So what we want to do is provide more funding to that and really build outdoor programming as a whole. So there's a few stipulations to who would get the funding. They'd have to ratify as a type 2 society under us, and they would have to provide counselors to a new outdoor council that we would chair. And so they would provide counselors to us, similar to the Science Society, similar to this council. Different faculty send representatives. So those council meetings would sort of go through budget, but also be a space for collaboration. Bigger events, better events, more outdoor time. Right? Any questions?
I think you made a very good case about how your society helps students de-stress and improves their confidence and wellness, and I would definitely encourage the society that you're speaking on behalf of to reach out to student health services to refer students who feel stressful or feel stressed to
Thank you. I'll take that. Sweet. So proud of yourself.
You gave a fantastic fantastic presentation. I'm so excited for everything that you're going to do. That was great. You like the one thing I was worried about when you're talking about giving money to other people. I was like, stop talking. It's not allowed. You nailed it. That was brilliant. My only suggestion, to follow in with what was down there, is like talking to International Student Association. And the International Student Center. Like when I first came here, I had not seen anything outside of Halifax, and I had no idea how to get there. And until I could rent a car, there was like no opportunities. Like that's brilliant. You're golden. I'm so excited.
That's great. I don't recognize any of you from the trips, but
I have Aaron.
Also retreat. I am likewise inspired to go camping soon.
Maybe one more.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a great idea. Identified like the great things about Halifax and Nova Scotia that a lot of people don't have access to. I think doing this could even save people money. Right now, people are like renting cars on their own, doing all this stuff on their own. And by centralizing it, you can like create a better sense of community as well as saving costs. Similar to Jacqueline, just reach out to international students and like obviously reflecting on the type of culture that you're creating. I feel like things like that could be cliquey, but I know you're working hard to engage different people, but I feel like that'll be key.
So well done. So I'm not gonna lie, when I first was coming to talk, I was like, I have no idea why we didn't give you money, but now I want to give you more. My question is, do you know how much money that would total if you got that?
talking with Rams, it was about 30,000.
Okay.
Now, 45% of that would be any type 2 societies that were outdoor activity related. Now, let me just point out that, like, if there are 10 societies that in the spring as type 2, they would split that 45%. Now, if no type 2 societies are ratified, bumper year for us. We get the whole funds, and we'll use them and have a great year. So that's how that would work.
So then, my second question is, so for students or for myself, if I wanted to come on one of your trips, does it cost me anything?
Right now it does. So right now the system is such that we have passive and active members. Passive, so we run sort of 2 trips. We run longer outdoor trips, like overnights. We run canoe trips in Keji, hiking in Cape Breton, snowshoeing, those sort of things. Those ones, you have to be an active member. You have to pay the $30 membership annual fee. Now, that's tricky. A lot of people, we get people saying, it's too much money, I won't bite. So we also run passive member trips. These are just day trips to a lot of the local wilderness areas just off the peninsula. And those are trips that we don't actually have to pay for, so we can get there by Metro Transit. And that's huge for us. So like most of our events are free, but the longer trips, which are really like the biggest ones for mental health and for community building, where people really bond the most, those are solid gold. But we have few of them because they're.
But with this, they'd be completely free.
Yeah.
Next on the list I have Bart.
Cool. So yeah, I just want to echo the idea that you should definitely be on the campaign trail for this because I mean, I hate the outdoors. But even I'm like, maybe I should get a tent or something. The only thing I would maybe suggest is that once you do get this funding, is to maybe consider going to the different levels of societies, like say the LSS, because I think a lot of boards should do team building exercises like that. I think that approaching the different organizations within the DSU would be beneficial for you and for them.
Next, I have Joe. Taylor.
I was gonna say what Scott just said, that I think it would maybe be great if this all passes that. I know for the last few years we've had trouble having a DSU council retreat in September, but I think we'd maybe incentivize people a little if we were to go camping together for a night, and that would actually bring us a lot closer together than sitting in a room, even if it's a cool room. Not in a weird way, but just like and I would just express, like, from my experience, I planned some programming at the International Center for a year, and I think just your guys' expertise could be utilized by a lot of societies, not even like you wouldn't even have to put up money because there's already groups doing this or putting up the money, but often the logistics get in the way, as it is very hard to coordinate to get a bus or this or that and rent camping gear. So if you guys can partner with different groups, I think you could have a massive impact.
I have Alec.
Yeah, did you say $30,000? You sure about that?
Oh, no, let me confirm. It's actually 21 G's, man.
Okay. Like, is it even that though? Because the
Yeah.
2 semesters.
Plus summer. That's what.
Oh, the
Oh,
summer would
it's
make
broken
it.
into semesters. Okay, because I was saying, like, the bike center got $1 per student, and we had a $17,000 levy, so the numbers, but it's per semester, so that makes sense. Cool. No question, nothing.
Alright.
Yeah, that was it. I was going to clarify that.
Okay.
We'll
I have
use
Aaron.
everything we get.
Oh, I was gonna ask the same question, but is that okay? Like, I don't know.
We want-
It was 30, now it's 21. Like,
You know,
More
I
about
mean,
you want 30? Like,
he might ask like whether there'll be any fees, and there may be trip-related fees. These trips are not cheap. Right now, so like a lot of the rentals of cars, rentals of gear has been paid for by the society, but on these trips, people are often paying a little bit extra to go on them, like beyond the $30 membership fee. So, like, we're pretty good at sort of trying to maximize our dollar value and like really maximize how much of the trip like we can do. Like fill cars at max capacity, bring as many people as possible, fill tents up. So 21,000 is great. Like we can use all the help we can get. Yeah.
Hema.
My next question now is, do you have a budget of like what you will spend the money on, whether it was 21 or 30?
So right now we're looking at so 45% to the societies, and of our chunk, most of it would, so there'd be a portion for buying gear. We have a rental agreement with NEC, and it's been really good. They've been really good to us, but sometimes all their stuff is booked up, and that becomes a real issue in the winter for snowshoes. So we would get more access. We just want to buy more gear, so that we're not tied to them. So a big portion of that would be for that, and then a big portion would be for transport, so that the people don't have to shell out a lot.
Do you have space?
We're working on that. Right now, everything's at my house. Which annoys my roommates sometimes, but
Yeah, we'll give you space. Also, if you want to bump it up,
Space?
if you do want to bump your cash, like, I'm totally supportive of that, Make $1 if you want.
Are you suggesting an amendment?
Yes.
or just be careful. The Board of Governors is clearly not on the side of levies.
I think
The South House. I mean, just be careful.
Do you wish to speak to the amendment? I would like a seconder first. Scott, go ahead.
just for the sake of anything, I think we should hold on, keep it as it is. This went to the Board of Ops. Do with it for, like, make do for a year. I don't want to deprive you of any amount of money that you need to, like, do any of your activities, but, like, keep it safe and stick with whatever got passed through.
Point of information.
Yes.
Are we allowed to do amendments if it has to go through the Board of Ops in the election?
So the point is that BOPS reviews it. They don't actually have to approve it, right? The Constitution contemplates that they review it, and same with the Elections Committee. So, I mean, they're telling us they both reviewed the text of this amendment. They don't need to approve of the dollar amount. That's what council does.
Okay.
And the other piece of it, Kaylee, is that it goes to the student, what is it? It's like the
Student accounts.
student count. So
And someone else.
Very interpretive with the university's managers.
So, like, what do they, and I see your hand, Scott, so what do they have to, and Jamel, so what do they have to review it for then?
It wouldn't be if they're not reviewing for an existing one.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So that would be $100.
Okay, so the question now, I just want to reflect it. What was the motion for dollar, right?
Yeah. So,
A dollar per semester, and for how much for part-time students? Okay, okay, so
Well, then say that.
we have a speakers list.
I didn't actually read a second.
We will not approve any raising
Yeah.
of the list.
Yeah.
That plan. Just keep it really simple.
We
They'll
have a
approve
speakers
it.
list, right? So,
Okay, but like,
yeah.
doesn't matter.
Call the question, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't second it, so if someone needs to second this.
I don't even
No,
remember.
don't.
Sorry.
It's a question.
Unless you really want to second.
So hold on here.
Am I wrong?
I asked Ramsey who was suggesting an amendment. He said yes. I made a mistake in recognizing Scott as a seconder. Danny has taken exactly. Sorry, Danny. So we have a speakers list here, and actually Scott is first of all.
Well, I was just wondering if you are going to be having funds available for students who don't have the financial
didn't get a
means
second.
to afford new grants.
Point of order, no one seconded the amendment.
I thought that Danny just said that. He said
No, he said I didn't.
She said he had a question.
So the reason for a seconder, right, is to ensure that to prevent only one person from like putting forward business at a meeting that no one else wants to deal
This
with.
is not relevant right now. We're running out of time. Can we move on with this?
Yeah, I withdraw my motion. I can't even do that, but yeah.
You can because I guess it hasn't been seconded.
Perfect, I withdraw it.
Great.
Thank you.
So the question is on,
Which one called the question?
well, we had a speakers list, so we'll need to have a vote on that. Does the motion have a seconder? Call the question.
Point of
I
information,
guess that was Aaron. Yes, Jamal.
was I the only one of the speakers who seconded
No,
this?
Dylan also.
Sorry?
So before the question was called, you and Dylan were on the speakers list.
I would like to withdraw my name from the speakers list.
So there's no one on the speakers list. We can move directly to a vote on whether to refer this question to the student body. There are no amendments. What else can I say? I mean, right, so Bob's has reviewed it, the elections committee has reviewed it, and George is in agreement with the wording of the question. And so the question is whether to refer to the student body. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Point of privilege.
Yeah.
Also, just like thanks for staying till the very end of the meeting to
Yeah.
present.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. We're still here, folks. So we've got,
One question, or point of information.
yes,
If I were to extend the meeting time by 15 minutes, do I do that now?
You can do it now.
Motion to extend the meeting time by 15 minutes.
Second by Bart. So currently the meeting is scheduled to end at 9:45, and so the effect would have the meeting end at 10. So are there any suggestions? Any further suggestions for extending the time?
We can get it done by 9:45.
Brent?
Motion to table item B.
Well, I mean, what comes first? Table. Where's table? That's table.
I'd like to withdraw that if that's possible.
It's not because it's been seconded. But a motion to table takes precedence over that anyway. Okay. So the question is whether or not to extend the meeting 15 minutes so that the meeting ends at 10. Is there any further discussion on that? Yes, Jamal.
Can you please repeat?
The question is whether to extend the meeting until 10 o'clock. Is there any further discussion? The seconder was, probably here. Okay, so do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. 15-6. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay, so the meeting will end at 10. And so, agenda was tabled from the last meeting, and it concerns the independent governance review consultant. And I believe you would also wish to conduct concurrent debate with.
Yeah, so I'd like the motion to table items B and C.
Oh, right. Okay, so you want to table both of them until when?
Until
until March 11th. So does the motion have a seconder? Jacqueline. Okay, is there any discussion around tabling these two motions until March 11th? Rams?
The report is written, is ready for you tonight, but at the same time, I get it reviewed by the executive before we actually present it to you on March 11th. That's it.
Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed to tabling these two motions until March 11th? Okay, we'll have a vote then. And no further discussion on this? All right, so the question is to table items B and C, a motion to hire an independent governance review consultant, and a motion to strike an ad hoc governance review committee until the meeting of March 11th. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Dan wants his dissent noted in minutes. Okay. Next. All right. So, amendments to Constitution policy. Does the motion have a seconder? Yazan?
So I motion to table this too.
You want to table the Constitution policy?
Yep.
Anything else? Or just Constitution?
And grants policy, and we decided earlier to table the territory.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a discussion item, which I think still might be fruitful. I don't want to rush issues, we're supposed to have 15 minutes for regular
We
Mm-hmm.
meetings.
really have to talk about the amendments to the Constitution so that we can get it on the agenda
Well,
for the...
if you want to table what you want to table, that's fine. And if anyone else wants to table something else, then that can happen. So, I mean,
Motion to table D and E,
okay, until when?
March 11th.
Okay. Does the motion have a seconder? Yazan. Okay, so we've never discussed these, correct? At council, right? We've never discussed the amendments to Constitution and Grants Policy. I'm just clarifying, right? Okay. So is there any discussion on tabling these until March 11th? D and E? Like the reason is because I don't want to ask anyone to explain what they are if they haven't been discussed. Okay. Tabling D and E until the next meeting? I mean, is anyone opposed to tabling these two items until the next meeting? March 11th, that's the next meeting. Sorry, you're right. Is anyone opposed to tabling these two items until the next meeting? Then they'll be tabled until March 11th. Okay, the next motion is the motion to acknowledge Mi'kmaq territory, and I circulated it to councilors.
Motion to move this to after Constitution? Or your next Constitution?
So you want to bump this down in the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. And so does that motion have a seconder? Bart? Any discussion on that? Is anyone opposed to moving this motion until after the consideration of the constitutional amendments? All right. Okay. So.
Can I motion to table the living wage? Next meeting? March 11th?
March 11th? Okay, does the motion, as proposed to table his motion to advocate for living wage until March 11th. Does the motion have a second? Julian, is there any discussion around tabling? No discussion around tabling. Is anyone opposed to tabling this motion until March 11th? Then it'll be tabled until March 11th. So, now we come to the motion to refer the proposed constitutional amendments to the Board of Operations. So, it's proposed as one motion, as an omnibus. And does the motion have a seconder? Yazan. Okay. So how do you propose that we deal with this, Rams? I mean, do you propose to speak to all of them, or?
No.
I know we didn't have a meeting beforehand to work out what we're having here, but.
Really, the discussion here is not the meat of the we don't need to have a long discussion on it tonight. Basically, all that needs to happen tonight is that it gets referred to Bob's, who will then distribute the amendments, and we can discuss those amendments later at the March 31st. Yeah.
So before I recognize Bart, I just want to make clear that what the process is for amending the Constitution and like what stage we're at right now. So right now, we're at the stage in bylaw 11, section 2. So I guess these three things need to happen before there's amendments to the Constitution, right? There needs to be notice of motion at a meeting of council.
Yep.
And so that happened.
That happens also in this agenda.
Right, okay, but we're just doing it out of order. I see what's happening here.
Yeah,
So,
we discussed, because if you'll notice in section B, it says that council has referred the proposed amendments or revisions for the consideration of the board, which shall consider the amendments or revisions within 2 weeks of the original notice of motion. So the notice has to happen simultaneously with the referral at the same meeting, and so it was I think Rams and I were advised by Andrew that it would be, that this is how we could do it.
yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's
like,
inconsistent.
it is, and because it doesn't like stipulate it has to happen in this order, right?
Yeah.
So the notice will happen at the end of the meeting, and we're referring it to the board now, which is fine. And so now I will recognize Garth.
I would just like to move to consider to separate the change to the external advocacy groups on page 21 separately from the rest of the changes.
Okay, page 21.
Yeah.
So on page 21, there are proposed amendments to bylaw 7 to remove sections 5 to 8. And so those sections deal with the process for changing the union's membership in an external advocacy organization. And you're proposing to divide the motion so that there are two motions. One, to refer that set of amendments to Bob's, and then everything else.
Yes.
Okay, does that motion have a seconder? Dan. Okay. Any discussion on that part?
Andrew, there's also another element in that where there's a change in external advocacy group. Bart also wants that pulled out. It's the taking out of the federal advocacy group from forcing a federal advocacy group to become a society.
Right, so
That
before.
also-
Yeah, I think that'll probably be a good one to pull.
Okay.
As well. So that's 7(1)(c). Thank you.
And so is there any other, like, are the Constitution that concern changes to external advocacy? No, okay. All right, so, Bart?
Cool. I guess just to motivate this really quick, and I am sorry, I know that we all want to be done with this, but basically, especially looking around what we've done with student NS in the last 12 hours, I think that the rules we have on external advocacy groups are good and useful. Having our own policies on it means that we get to make the decisions with regards to our organization with student NS. If we didn't have these policies in place, we'd have to go through an entire referendum to leave the organization. So I think that is representative of why they are so useful to have. I also just want to speak specifically to part 5.
Yep.
Yeah, the union shall not enter into an agreement, partnership, and/or membership with an external advocacy group where the external organization's bylaws, policies, and/or constitution vote to supersede those of the union. I think that cutting that would be a drastic mistake. I think that the DSU should have the final say on the DSU, and we should not submit ourselves to a different board's constitution and policies and bylaws when they constitution, policy, and bylaws. So I don't even want this to go to BOPS. I think we should keep this in as a cornerstone of what makes the DSU the DSU.
I have Aaron.
I'm just wary of getting into things because I think the point of this is to refer to the BOPs so they can examine them, and then we'll talk about all these things after. If we start talking about the merits of specific things, we're going to have to talk about the merits of all these different changes, and I don't think any of us want to do this here, and it doesn't really make sense. So I do have specific opposition. I think there's reasons why that was taken on. It seems like it contradicts things that were written above, but I honestly just want to like approve this and we can debate it in 2 weeks.
Rams.
Bart, like, I agree with exactly where you're coming from. In fact, the entire reason why they were even mentioned is because if you read, if you put some more, if you scrutinize those clauses, you'll find, yeah, they do contradict each other. They don't make any sense. The clause I just mentioned that the DSU will make its own, will not join. You'll see the clause after that says the DSU will, the DSU, like, yeah, it loses its rights essentially. I don't know if you can see that there. But it's things like this that the BOPs need to critique. So we're not saying get rid of any sort of regulatory measures or remove council's power to make decisions. We're just asking BOPs to just clean up the language and put some sense into it. So if you want that to happen.
I have Dan next on the speaker's list.
I believe that what you're trying to do is make sure that this is talked about as a separate agenda item and it doesn't take over the rest of, and that they actually have useful feedback on this portion separate from everything else. Spirit of the motion.
And then just to respond, Rams, I agree. Some of the wording might not be ideal, but in other sections where it's the wording's not ideal, there's changes proposed.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just a universal cut, and that comes from. If it was reworded, it would be better worded when it goes to BOPs. I'd fully support it going there, but the full cut is, I think, a dangerous thing to send out.
So let's do that then. Like BOPs can make some changes to it. What if it be cut or not?
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely, vote with your conscience for that. I would say don't send it to BOPs yet, send it to BOPs when there's actual changes proposed like the rest of it, so that it doesn't with everything else and create a vacuum in the union.
Aaron.
I just think our GM has already been pushed back weeks, and I don't know if we can push it much more, exams and stuff, and I think we all deserve to have a longer conversation about it. Allie's also always been super interested in receiving feedback. Every meeting she tries to tell people what the BOPs is and how they can express feedback. So I feel like we should just approve it and then we can debate it more later.
And I mean, I personally guarantee you, I'll bring this up at BOPs about your comments about maybe we should find alternative wording, and BOPs I'm sure will think of something.
Yes, certainly.
To kind of carry on with what Bart was saying, is there any way we could make a note next to this, or just have it kind of signified? Because I understand what you're saying. I wish that happened at BOPs every once in a while. It doesn't. They're going to go through this and scrutinize every single word and punctuation mark. But just put something next to it saying counselor notificate or counselor something council requests this not be axed. This be.
How do you put comments in Word?
You go to review.
Insert.
Insert. No, review would be better.
Comment. It says society coordinator. Cool. Well, what was it that you wanted to put there?
Council specifically requests to Bart, your wording. You go
I would say council specific requests that this just be reworded to be internally consistent and to keep the spirit of the union having full control over the union.
I just feel like if we're going to say that, we need to talk about it more, and I think the point is to not talk about it.
No,
I'm going to interpret this, so I'm going to ask if this has a seconder. Right. I am sorry to cut you off here.
Yeah, no.
So I'm sorry to cut you off, and you were saying
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just that.
It's amendment 10.
I feel like if we're going to start making amendments now, then we're going to make amendments to everything, and I want to talk about this later after it's been considered. We can change everything later. So I don't understand why we're going to make specific, we can say council wants this reviewed, but I don't feel comfortable just making that small recommendation without a larger conversation.
Exactly,
I was going to say, I think in respect to the one thing that one person brought up that seemed really important to them, they're not actually asking for us to change everything. They're asking for us to take a closer look at it. And like you're saying, we're going to take a closer look at the entire document. It's just if someone feels more comfortable and the whole group feels more comfortable having that there, we can put that there. That makes perfect sense to me. That's fine. We're not looking at the whole damn thing right now.
Okay, so yes, Kayla.
Does that also include the previous point that I made about the federal? So one of the things, all of the points in this bylaw is that this bylaw is actually mostly dealing with societies. It's an other organization bylaw, and so in 10 it says that you'll see that part has been deleted. That if any group that wishes to represent the union as an external federal advocacy group must make application for recognition by council as a society and shall blah blah blah. And then and so is that included in what wants to be? And the second question is that I just want to provide some clarity that item 1 or item 5, Andrew and I have discussed that if that was brought up when the union joined Students Nova Scotia in the spring, it actually would have been open possibly to a point because Students Nova Scotia itself may not have met that threshold. And then the next point is that it's contradicted by saying you need to follow the bylaws. And then for anyone who read the letter from Students Nova Scotia and who heard Andrew's decision on the general meeting will know that Section 8 is actually also may be disputed by some. And so I think just in terms of the conversation with the executive around constitutional changes, like there's a lot of issues here, and so I'm not sure that this can be salvaged. I think that if council wants to give direction to provide, for BOPS to provide alternate options for this section, that might be worth it. But this section, as it stands, is has several different problems that have been identified by several people who are involved in the processes that are underway right now.
Jen?
I was gonna say, I wonder if it makes sense for us to, ask BOPS to come up with a process. Is that what you want? You want to see a process so that the student union doesn't lose its autonomy?
Yeah, well, I'm just, my basic concern is that everywhere else it's been, if there's a change to be made, that the change has already been written in. And as it stands right now, what I would, if I was on BOPS, in a vacuum and I saw this come in, I would say that we're looking at just cutting that without trying to salvage it or make it actually functional within the Constitution. And I don't want that to be the message that BOPS gets. I want the message to be that we should be focused on actually making this a functional part of the Constitution, because I think it is important for the organization. It's basically just having it struck out with no notes, no changes, when other things have notes and changes. Sets it apart from things that are looking to be amended and makes it look like it's just set for discussion, which I think is not what is best for the organization.
So are we saying, just because the spirit of this, if our note is to maintain the spirit of this is completely contradictory, and there's going to be a bunch of weird interpretations, and it's going to be a shit show of BOPS. That's what's going to happen. But if we make the note to be we need a process, is that the spirit?
Okay, yeah. If it might be a better word saying create ensure that something is created to maintain the DSU's autonomy if it joins an outside organization, and that its constitution should be the supreme document.
So,
if that, sorry, I on there without letting you get in a position to type, Andrew, I apologize.
Well, can you track changes in a comment? I don't think you can. This is becoming weird.
Yeah. Sorry.
New comment?
Or at least more weird than usual.
New comment?
Yeah. Okay, so what is it there? Insert comment. What is it there?
Focus on creating policy that would recognize the DSU's autonomy and recognize its constitution as a supreme document in any advocacy group that it would seek to join.
The Constitution's what?
As a supreme document.
As a supreme document that
in any advocacy or in any organization it should join.
Any external advocacy organization.
Yeah, governs youth actions and governs our place within any outside organization.
As a supreme document that governs any external advocacy organization should join.
Yeah, it just governs the DSU regardless of organization that it joins. I'll probably just end up having to. Can anybody just show up to boss?
But you can send down
I understand what you're trying to say. We'll make it happen. Okay.
Council specifically requests that BOPS focus on creating policy that recognizes the DSU's autonomy and recognizes the Constitution as the supreme document that governs any external advocacy organization the union should join. Is that fine?
Yeah.
We have a seconder. Dan. Okay. So that's an amendment to this. Is there any further discussion? And so I see that a motion to divide takes precedence over a motion to amend. Okay, that's what it says here. The above are listed in order of precedence. Divide or amend. So the first question that will come before, that we'll be voting on is whether to divide the proposed amendments to be referred to BOPS into with the external advocacy amendments and 2, everything else. Okay? And then the second thing we'll vote on is whether to add Bart's comment. So, is there any further discussion on any of that? And yes, Dan.
So if we decide not to divide it, the comments are still being voted to put in or not?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so any further discussion around any of that? I think that was a pretty useful, yeah, Roman?
Can you just repeat the form of voting?
Sure, okay. So there are 2 motions on the floor. One is to divide one is to divide the motion and one is to amend. And so a motion to divide takes precedence over a motion to amend. And the motion to divide would say, okay, BOPS, we're going to refer some constitutional amendments to you, but instead of it coming to you as one, okay, we're going to have 2. 1 with external advocacy amendments, and 2, everything else. Okay? I mean, normally people divide motions for the purpose of voting differently on each, but we've had some discussion here, and so the motion to amend would just add this comment when BOPS gets the amendment.
Would you like to amend the
Yeah.
amendment?
Sure. Okay, and I'm just checking the quorum.
So are we saying that the Constitution should govern another organization or govern our relationship with that organization? I'm sure BOPS is going to exercise their
We'll
discretion.
totally figure it out, and
But
like, we don't even have to
really
divide
like
it,
using
because it's all
those
just gonna be
two
one
assumptions,
document in an
especially
email.
when we're talking about Constitution.
I was gonna say that, I don't think we need to divide it now that the comments are in there.
Well, the motion is properly on the floor.
Just vote the same on it.
William?
Just to make a comment, I divided because of the potential to be an issue when it comes up to an actual vote.
And then we
later.
can divide it when it
So
comes up.
It's clear, and then like we can actually pass the rest of the items in the Constitution, and then spend all our time arguing about this stuff. Right? I think that it will come up as a point of argument in the future. And we can just like,
Any further discussion? So seeing none, we'll move first to the vote to divide the motion. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does not carry by 7 to 8. Would anyone like their assents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Bart, assented. Anyone else? Okay. The next question is to amend the document to add. Do you understand the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Yes. Dylan abstained. Anyone else? Jamel abstained. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. The next item on the agenda is concerning the motion to recognize Mi'kmaq territory. And so.
We didn't vote on the whole motion.
Oh. Okay, so, I mean, I guess debate resumes on the motion as a whole for the constitutional amendments. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Yes, Jackie?
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, seconded by Yazan. We still have quorum. We got 21 here. So the motion has been amended to add this comment for BOPS, and that's been the only amendment. And so the question is whether to refer these proposed constitutional amendments to BOPS. On the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay. Now let's talk about this motion for recognition of Mi'kmaq territory. It was moved by.
Motion to extend the meeting.
Hold on, I just want to see who moved it.
Wait, I need my extension. The SRC needs an extension, and that's the next thing on business. It's like the fastest decision.
I'm just checking who moved this motion. Okay, it was moved by Dylan. So now you want to extend the meeting?
Yeah. How much time are we talking?
If we could talk about my thing, then I can see if people want to talk about it. I only want to talk about it if people want to talk about it. Because if people are gonna, if it's not gonna be a conversation, I don't want to have that conversation. There's a possibility that we're just gonna table my thing until next meeting.
Can we talk about Friday?
Do you guys want to talk about my motion, or do you want to talk about extending the
Well,
meeting?
that's when I asked the question, does the motion have a seconder? This is the point of the seconding motion, is and. There you go. So people want to talk about it. Look at that. Minutes.
Be resolved.
The referendum levied societies to April 22nd. And so it's been added to the agenda. Does the motion
I
have a
think I
seconder?
said April 22nd, 2015.
2015.
Not run into any-
Does the motion have a seconder? Jacqueline. All right, Jen. What are your reasons?
I think I explained it all. Does anyone want me to re-go over my reasons? I think I explained it all before. Okay, great.
Dan. What? Or Jamel.
Yes, can you go over your reasons again, please?
Sure. So my reasons included that the motion was late to be passed, and so we didn't actually get as long of a timeline as Jamel had originally planned for when he designed the motion. I would have brought this up I wanted to bring this up when the motion was passed at that meeting, but we went straight from amendment to voting on the motion, and we didn't have a chance for discussion in between, and so I wasn't able to bring it up. The SRC hasn't been able to meet and put enough time into discussing this really important topic where we'll be reviewing 11 societies. So,
Jamel.
Sorry, you want to go first? So I just, quick question, so how many times has the SRC met until date, since
we've
my motion was
only,
passed?
since what?
Since the review motion was passed.
We've only been able to do email votes. We haven't been able to get quorum for a meeting yet
Email votes.
on ratification. And
There's no such thing as an email vote.
Okay, I'm sorry I meant. We haven't met.
If there's any committee that's conducting an email
There was
vote,
no email vote.
if there's any committee that's conducting an email vote, then that would be a problem.
There'll never be an email vote.
Well,
Sorry, was there anything else, Sean?
Does April 11th make sense?
April 11th? We could try, it's just really busy with elections and getting people together. And like it would mean that all of March would be spent with the committee needing to meet multiple times, and I'm not sure if that'll be able to happen. And so like the 25th was a safe bet.
I see William.
22nd.
Problematic with email votes.
Oh my
As long
goodness.
as reported,
Point of order, not relevant.
No,
Is there any further discussion around this motion, Jamal?
I just want to remind all the councillors, this is one of the reasons why I wanted the vote to happen in Jan and not in,